I love to teach. It was a very different experience. Student teaching in fourth grade and then teaching first, then going in to teach first. I was like, oh my God, I have not tied so many shoes in a day in my life.
When I was younger, I couldn't have gotten on the stage and spoken to microphone. And then my students now, they're getting on the stage and performing from memory their lines for our musicals that we put on. And the confidence that they have is way more confidence than I've ever had as a child. And I think that gives me the joy to see them grow in that way has been so amazing.
For me, growing up, I didn't have a lot of male teachers or Hispanic teachers. For me, it's about the connections with the students. So one thing I always tell my students is, once you're my student, you're always my student.
Some people are afraid of ninth graders. I think it's the best. I've heard it said that this is the best they're going to be because it's almost like a job interview for them. It's their first year, they're nervous, their parents can still tell them what to do, and it's their first year in high school, so they don't know what to expect, so they really look to you a lot for some guidance.
To teach something that has an impact on our everyday world, it's an amazing experience. Being able to provide real world examples for my students, from the tariff situation, from even you getting your Amazon package every day. This is something that I teach my students, so I love what I do.
There's no educators in my family. What inspired me was I've always had a major thirst for knowledge, and I've always been somebody that likes to share that knowledge and make it relatable to other people.
But getting Teacher of the Year, after I got over the shock and awe, I felt like I can stop feeling like an imposter now. This is proof that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
It was just amazing because it was unexpected. I was trying not to cry because, I don't like people to see me tear up, but it was just an exciting experience because it feels like I had been seen, like my work is finally being seen.
I was actually surprised. They all barged into my room and they announced it on the announcements, and my students are like, what is going on? But once they caught on, they were like, yeah, that's my teacher, that's my teacher.
I was surprised, because it's like, I know that I do a lot of things, but then I see teachers every day. I'm like, wow, we have really good teachers at my school.
If I can be straight up, I didn't think I deserved it. I mean, because what I do around campus is not to get accolades and none of that. I'm the one that like to be in the back end of things. I'm grateful for the opportunity, whether I win or not. Just to be in this place, in this moment, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful and humbled. So I'm enjoying the ride.
I always tell my students, I say, you are seen, you are heard, and you're loved here at Anderson Academy. Just always remember that on your very worst day on the job, you are still some child's best of hope. I love to teach. It was a very different experience. Student teaching in fourth grade and then teaching first, then going in to teach first. I was like, oh my God, I have not tied so many shoes in a day in my life.
When I was younger, I couldn't have gotten on the stage and spoken to microphone. And then my students now, they're getting on the stage and performing from memory their lines for our musicals that we put on. And the confidence that they have is way more confidence than I've ever had as a child. And I think that gives me the joy to see them grow in that way has been so amazing.
For me, growing up, I didn't have a lot of male teachers or Hispanic teachers. For me, it's about the connections with the students. So one thing I always tell my students is, once you're my student, you're always my student.
Some people are afraid of ninth graders. I think it's the best. I've heard it said that this is the best they're going to be because it's almost like a job interview for them. It's their first year, they're nervous, their parents can still tell them what to do, and it's their first year in high school, so they don't know what to expect, so they really look to you a lot for some guidance.
To teach something that has an impact on our everyday world, it's an amazing experience. Being able to provide real world examples for my students, from the tariff situation, from even you getting your Amazon package every day. This is something that I teach my students, so I love what I do.
There's no educators in my family. What inspired me was I've always had a major thirst for knowledge, and I've always been somebody that likes to share that knowledge and make it relatable to other people.
But getting Teacher of the Year, after I got over the shock and awe, I felt like I can stop feeling like an imposter now. This is proof that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
It was just amazing because it was unexpected. I was trying not to cry because, I don't like people to see me tear up, but it was just an exciting experience because it feels like I had been seen, like my work is finally being seen.
I was actually surprised. They all barged into my room and they announced it on the announcements, and my students were like, what is going on? But then once they caught on, they were like, yeah, that's my teacher, that's my teacher.
I was surprised, because it's like, I know that I do a lot of things, but then I see teachers every day. I'm like, wow, we have really good teachers at my school.
If I can be straight on, I didn't think I deserved it. I mean, because what I do around campus is not to get accolades and none of that. I'm the one that like to be in the back end of things. I'm grateful for the opportunity, whether I win or not. Just to be in this place, in this moment, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful and humbled. So I'm enjoying the ride.
I always tell my students, I say, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved here at Anderson Academy. Just always remember, on your very worst day on the job, you are still some child's best of hope. I love to teach. It was a very different experience. Student teaching in 4th grade and then teaching first, then going in to teach first grade. It's like, oh my God, I have not tied so many shoes a day in my life.
When I was younger, I couldn't have gotten on the stage and spoken microphone. And then my students now, they're getting on the stage and performing from memory their lines for our musicals that we put on. And the confidence that they have is way more confidence than I've ever had as a child. And I think that gives me the joy to see them grow in that way has been so amazing.
For me growing up, I didn't have a lot of male teachers or Hispanic teachers. For me, it's about the connections with the students.
Call to order the June 8, 2026 study session of the Board of Trustees of the Aldine Independent School District. Let the minutes reflect that all board members are here with the exception of Mr. Randy Bates. He has been excused on tonight. We also have guests viewing our meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us. And now we will begin the report with our administration staff with our superintendent, Dr. Goffney.
Madam President, Board of Trustees, this is a time when we go over all of our Lone Star governance goals and constraints. My agenda item begins on page 22 and 23. And at this time, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Rodriguez, our Chief of Analytics, Accountability, and Assessments.
Good evening, President Booker, Dr. Goffney, members of the board. Dr. Goffney said it best. Tonight is the night. We are going to review all of our goals, our goal progress measures, our constraints, and our constraint progress measures. And I say that because we should all take a deep breath. The presentation is somewhat lengthy, but we do want to cover from beginning of the year to middle of the year and talk about how we fared with our goals and our constraints. So this presentation, like every presentation this year, is grounded in our district strategic priorities. We will specifically look at progress monitoring and student data to talk about progress updates. Here are our board outcome goals. Again, we have our long-term goals and we have our 25-26 targets. Tonight we will specifically look at our 25-26 targets. Again, here are our superintendent constraints. As a reminder, these constraints are owned completely by the board, and I will keep saying that. There were, for our goals, we have 3rd grade reading, 3rd grade math, and CCMR that were through the House bill, and then we chose as a board to select 8th grade math because we felt like it was the gateway to high school graduation. And so for the constraint, those constraints were developed completely by the board along with the constraint progress measures. So tonight, just like our goals, we'll look at the 25-26 targets and our progress. Again, it's very, very small, but you'll see we'll go over 3rd grade reading, 3rd grade math, 8th grade math. We'll also go over college, career, and military readiness, and then we'll go over our constraints that center around customer service, student and staff well-being, and then also absenteeism. So we're going to get started with third grade. Our goal for third grade, the percentage of third grade students whose score approaches, meets, or masters on star reading will increase from 55% to 70% by June of 2029. We are going to go over goal progress measures tonight. As we do every year, in July, we will cover our high-level STAR data. We have gotten some early STAR data, and we will share that with you. We just received our preliminary files for end of course, and so later this week, you'll receive an email with some EOC data, and then when we receive the preliminary data for 3 through 8, you'll also receive that. And that'll be prior to July, but we'll go over the July, the goals for third grade reading, third grade math, and eighth grade math with our STAR data. We'll do that in July. So tonight, we're going to cover our goal progress measures. So the first goal progress measure, the percent of kindergarten students testing in English on MAP who meet or exceed their end of the year growth goals will increase from 47% to 57% or 53% by the end of school year 2029. The target this year was 50%, and we actually ended the year with 71% of our students in kindergarten testing in English who met or exceeded their end of the year growth goals on the MAP reading assessment, and so that's a difference of 21%. We did break it down for you by subgroup, and you can see that every subgroup did either meet or exceed that target.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Garcia?
Okay, Donna, if we ask questions as you go.
Sure.
Okay, so most of my questions, I have a number of questions in your presentation, for your presentation, but most of them are going to relate to the specific subgroup data. So in this case, for example, it's very limited. But I just want to understand, so I understand beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. How long ago was end of year? In May? Is that when they took these?
Yes, ma'am. So we finished May 19th with all assessments.
So we're looking at data we haven't seen before.
Correct.
Most of these. Okay. So,
correct.
So in this particular case, and there will be others very similar to it, but there will be greater gaps. So I'm assuming, and the reason that I'm asking the question is because we are in the process this summer of planning for instruction for the next year based on what the results are that we have here and the results that you just mentioned that we are beginning to receive, that we'll continue to receive this summer to make plans for students, the instruction. So for that example here, the subgroup special education that did not have a beginning of the year has a middle of the year of 54%. It ended the year at 53%.
Yes, ma'am.
So there is how, and there will be others as we go through the subgroups. So how does one explain, a drop back in like this one, and what would one do? What would the plan be that would be different for a subgroup that declined at the end of the year rather than continue to improve?
Yes, ma'am. And so I want to make sure we all clearly understand growth goals. And so when you see, let me explain a growth goal, and then I think I'll answer your question, Dr. Garcia. So every time a student tests, they are given a growth goal. Here is where I performed, and here is where I should grow at the next assessment, okay? In between that time, there is instructional week. So we're providing tier 1 instruction, we're providing intervention, we're doing all of the things necessary so that students meet or exceed their growth goal. Because what we were originally told by MAP was at that 50th percentile, we know that when we start getting over 50% of our students who are meeting or exceeding their growth goal, we start to see that achievement move. And that's exactly what we saw happen last year. So going back to your question, so I take a test at the beginning of the year, which is why you see NA, because there is no growth. We set the growth target the first time we test. At the middle of the year, whether that be, let's say it's 16 instructional weeks, the test itself says, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. So there is no beginning of the year to help determine the goal.
Yes, so at the beginning of the year, when I shared that presentation with you, there was achievement in there. So we just gave you the percent of students that were at that or above, that yellow, that green, that blue. But I didn't put it here because it was an achievement presentation. So if we go back to October, when I presented the presentation to the board, instead of having MOY there and EOY, it didn't say met or exceeded growth. It said met or exceeded average or above achievement. And I filled that in at the beginning of the year for you, just so you could see this is where our kids were performing at the beginning of the year, since we didn't have growth goals. And now that we've transitioned to growth goals, you have the middle of the year and end of the year.
Okay, Dawn, so let me just ask a simpler question. So is the same thing going to occur next year? So we will not have at the end of the year, beginning of year, a column filled. It would be blank.
It wasn't blank at the beginning of the year. What you'll have is exactly what you had this year in October when the kids test. A chart will look like this, but instead of saying growth, it'll say achievement. And in BOY, it'll have achievement scores all the way down. But it will look exactly like it did this year. Okay. It will not have growth, but it will have achievement.
So then just to flip forward, then what we're doing is taking the end of the year and supposing it's an achievement, and beginning next year, I'm assuming we're going to look at a new in October when you share with us again. What will be in that first column will be nothing based on this?
What I am hoping, so what happened this year, thank you, Dr. Garcia, for reminding me to level set with the board, because we have some new board members. At the beginning of this year, MAP renormed their test. And so when we originally signed on for MAP 2 years ago, the goal was to have growth year over year. So we had 1 year where we shared the data, achievement for the first column, growth for the rest, because we had growth targets. This summer, we were told that they were renorming again. And so because they said not to compare test to test, right, because the norms were different, we started off with achievement and then went to growth. The goal is, if they do not renorm the test again, that we will continue in the new year with growth. We will still give achievement because it's the beginning of the year and we will have new students and new grade levels, but we will do some triangulation and hopefully provide some type of growth for our students year over year, because it'll be the same test 2 years in a row.
Okay, then I have one question that will be the same for all of these slides as well, and that is the final column from beginning of year to end of year difference. I don't know, I couldn't even imagine how that was calculated.
It's just the beginning of the year, there was no growth goal. Now that we have a growth goal, this is the total percentage of students that met their target for the end of the year.
So there was no comparison between even the middle of the year and end of year. So it's actually mislabeled. That column is mislabeled.
So beginning of the year is 0 because there is no growth goal. End of the year, 7. So what we're saying is what percentage of our students met or exceeded their growth goal, which at the beginning, we're saying no one met their growth goal because there wasn't a growth goal. And at the end of the year, there was a growth goal. And so 71%, which is why it's a replication of the last column that says
Okay, so can we, is it possible for us to have a more realistic assessment of a difference?
We can absolutely have a conversation about how we would like the results to be displayed differently. I know we talk every summer during our Lone Star Governance Board reset about what we'd like to see. So if you need any of the charts to look differently, we are not opposed to providing additional information or visualizing it in a different way.
Well, if it is going to say difference, my personal perspective would be that we would see a true difference, and even if we don't have a beginning of the year, don't call it beginning of the year, call it middle of the year to end of year difference, just so that we can see, you know, what the potential for all of those subgroups is, or what they were able to achieve.
Got it. I will take that back to my team, and we can absolutely think about how to visualize it differently. I do want to remind us, because I want to go back to your initial question about the difference between middle of the year and end of the year. They're two different growth goals. So you give a test, you have 16 instructional weeks, the kids take a test, either they met or exceeded their growth goal, yes or no. Then at the middle of the year, they're given a different growth goal. They have more instructional weeks and they take their test. And then we're given their end of the year, what percentage of students met or exceeded their growth goal. So in essence, it's not necessarily that they're going backwards. They're different assessments. So from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, I'm expected to know this set of concepts to this degree, and that will mean I meet or exceed my growth goal. Whereas from middle of the year, you're at a different starting point. There's a different set of expectations, and in order to meet or exceed your growth goal, you have to meet those expectations. And so, it's just it's a difference in percentage. It's not necessarily that the kids went backwards.
Okay, so then from my perspective, it would just be, we don't need a final column because it's visually we can see. And if there is no comparison, the goals are different, then there shouldn't be anything that would say difference.
Understood. Yes, ma'am.
Just before we move on, we do have just a reminder for the people that are speaking. Number one, we're going to speak in the microphone because we do have viewers that's listening, and some of them are having a hard time when multiple people are speaking at the same time. So we're just going to speak one at a time so everybody can understand the question, also the answer. Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore?
Board Member Moore. I need, as a new board member, I need help with understanding growth goal. Is this set for each student individually?
So the assessment assigns it for every single student individually.
Okay, so one teacher might set really tough growth goals for students and another one might set easier growth goals. So how is there any standardization, or how can we use this as a performance measurement if it's so subjective?
The assessment, NWA, the MAP assessment, is standardized across the board. I'm going to use third grade as the example. We're in third grade, but so all third grade students take the online assessment. The system assigns the growth goal, not the teacher, based on their performance. And the system itself takes into consideration the number of instructional weeks, where the student has started, if there are any program specialties that are assigned to the student, and then assigns a growth goal based on that. So it takes out the subjectivity of the teacher or the assistant principal or principal.
So the teacher doesn't have any participation in the growth goal assignment?
Not of the assignment. Working towards meeting the growth goal or exceeding, absolutely, but not in setting it.
And it doesn't take into account like race or income or anything when it assigns a growth goal?
So not race, but it does take into consideration like student pairing. So if you're emergent bilingual, if you're special ed, and it does take into consideration your beginning starting place. They put you in bands, if you will, for growth.
It's norm referenced across the country. So it's not just a Texas or an Aldine assessment. It's
Norm reference across the country, and is it somehow differentiated by whites versus Hispanic versus Asians?
I mean, we break down the data by subgroup, but the test is not differentiated by race, ethnicity.
So all the kids have the same growth goal without consideration of their race?
not
No.
the same goal, but
Growth goal, the same test and the same growth goal.
different growth
The
goal.
so the test is adaptable, and so what happens is if I sit down and take a test and I start answering questions right in third grade, my test will go to a different level to determine what place I'm at, and then it will assign me, Dawn, a growth goal based on I'm Gen Ed, this is the 16th instructional week, this is where I should be, and here's where I need to go. Now, there may be someone in the classroom next door who is special ed and only has had 14 weeks of instruction. They're gonna take the test, and based on how they respond, they're gonna go in a different direction, and it's going to assign them a growth goal based on those things.
Right, but I think this helps me understand it. A special ed kid will probably score way lower, and that's the reason that the growth goal is set differently for a special ed kid.
Not if the special ed was gifted and talented.
Well, what is special ed here?
Here's my point.
Well, which is it? Is it both? Are they lumped together?
Special ed is all lumped together.
Yeah, I was going to say that you can have students who are twice exceptional, who are special education identified, and then also are identified as gifted and talented. That does exist. And so their growth goal is just based on each individual student's goal. This is Fabiola Cantu, Chief Academic
I think I
Officer.
got this. So the testing, the whole metric for setting a growth goal has to do with previous performance of that student without regard to anything other than the previous performance of that student. Is that correct?
In relationship to people and students nationwide.
Right, but not in relation to zip code or race or anything like
Right.
that.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Correct.
I'm not, once again, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I just got to understand it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions before we move on from the percent of kindergarten students testing in English? So now we move to the percent of kindergarten students testing in Spanish who met or exceeded their individual growth goal on the end of the year MAP assessment in reading. The target was 50%. And again, we had 72% of our kindergarten students testing in Spanish who met or exceeded their individual growth goal. Here again are our subgroups and how our subgroups performed. For 1.2a, we are looking at the percent of second grade students testing in English who met or exceeded their individual growth goal on the end of the year MAP growth reading assessment. The target was 50%, and we had 57% of our students in second grade who met or exceeded their individual growth goal. Again, we have also broken it down by subgroup. For 1.2b, we're looking at the percent of second grade students testing in Spanish who met or exceeded their individual growth goal. The target was 50%. Our students were at 46% of our students who met or exceeded their individual growth goal. We have broken it down by subgroup. If you look at 2025, again, we don't want to do test comparisons, but for perspective, there were 38% of our students in 2025 who met or exceeded that target. And for 2026, we're looking at 46% of our students who met the target. Our top primary schools, our top growth primary schools in reading, again, Keeble at 87% of the students meeting or exceeding their individual growth goals, Hinojosa at 83%, and Garcia Lessa at 83%. For our top growth elementary schools, we have Carmichael at 67%, Caraway at 65%, and Goodman at 64%. And I do want to remind us again, you'll hear me say it over and over and over again. When we originally signed up for the MAP assessments and administered, we worked with a company to set the target of 50%, and those closely correlated with how our students performed on STAR. Again, we know that they have renormed the test. We will work this summer to look at the data to see how our students performed with growth, and we will line that up again with our STAR assessments once we receive them to ensure that the correlation is still as strong as it was previously. And we know that over 50% again is when we should start to see achievement move. So going into goal 2, we are looking at the percentage of third grade students who scored approaches, meets, or masters on STAR Math and increasing that from 55% to 65% by June of 2029. For GPM 2.1a, that is the percent of kindergarten students testing in English who met or exceeded their individual growth goal on their end of the year MAP math assessment, and the target was 50%. Again, we had 83% of our kindergarten students testing in English who met or exceeded their individual growth goal. Again, we have broken down the data by subgroup. For 2.1b, that is the percent of kindergarten students testing in Spanish who met or exceeded their end of the year growth goal on math. The target was 50%. Again, 91% of our kindergarten students testing in Spanish met or exceeded their end of the year growth goal on the math assessment. And we have broken that data down by subgroup. The percentage of second grade students testing in English who met or exceeded their end of the year growth goal on the MAP math assessment. Again, 50% is the target, and 67% of our second grade students testing in English met or exceeded their individual growth goal. We have broken that data down for you by subgroup, and every subgroup did either meet or exceed the target.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you. More here. If you could back up a couple slides, if I got this right, there were a bunch of Asians and African Americans who tested in Spanish.
This one.
Are you looking at third grade? Oh, kindergarten. Yes, sir. We have about 25 or so African American students that are participating in two-way dual language students at kindergarten right now, district-wide.
They could have tested in English, but they chose to test in.
Our dual language students for math, the math test is the same in English and Spanish, so they test in the language, their primary language. So they could test in English. They will for sure test in English, but then we also have the opportunity to test them in Spanish.
So some of the Asians and African Americans took tests in Spanish?
If a student is participating in two-way dual language, we want to make sure that the student is making progress in that second language. And so we will, for literacy, test them for sure in both languages so that we can monitor their proficiency in their primary language as well as their growth and proficiency in literacy reading in their second language. So they will test in both. And then for math, they will always test in their primary language. And then they're also given the opportunity to test in that second language.
Okay, so some of these students tested twice then.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
We were at 2.2b, which is the percent of second grade students testing in Spanish who met or exceeded their individual growth goal on the end of the year math assessment. The target was 50%. Again, 61% of our students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. And here are broken down by subgroup. Here are our top growth primary schools. Again, Hinojosa at 93%, Garcia Lessa at 92%, and Keeble at 91% of its students meeting or exceeding their end of the year growth goals on the MAP math assessment. If we look at our top growth elementary schools, again, Marcella at 84%, Thompson at 84%, and Caraway at 82% of their students meeting or exceeding their individual growth goals on the end of the year math assessment. When we move to 8th grade, again, we are looking at the percent of students at approaches, meets, and masters increasing from 53% to 63% by the end of June 2029. And so we first look at our 5th grade students who met or exceeded their individual growth goal on the end of the year math assessment map. 50% again is the target, and 80% of our 5th grade students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. We have broken down that data by subgroup. Again, every subgroup meeting or exceeding the target of 50%. For our 6th grade students, the target was 50%, and 60% of our students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. Again, we've broken it down by subgroup. For our 7th grade students, again, the target was 50%, and 58% of our students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. The data is broken down by subgroup. And then we have our 8th grade students, and these are the 8th grade students who take the 8th grade STAR assessment, because we have 8th grade students who are on the advanced math pathway that take algebra, and so we have split that data apart so you could see exactly what that looks like. And so for our 8th grade students who are taking the 8th grade STAR, the target was 50%, and 67% of those students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. And again, the data has been broken down by subgroup. And then when we look at our 8th grade students taking the Algebra 1 assessment, the target 50% and 88% of the students met or exceeded their individual growth goal. And this is the data broken down by subgroup. For our top growth middle schools, again, Impact at 78%, Garcia Middle School at 69%, and Meade at 67%. And before we move to CCMR, I do want to take just a minute to say what we'll do at this point, as I mentioned earlier, STAR data is coming in, and so we'll take our STAR data right alongside our map data. We'll run the correlations to make sure, because again, this is the first year we've given the assessment with the new norms. So number one, we want to make sure that it is still tightly aligned to how our students are performing on STAR. And number two, we'll lay them beside each other so that we can begin to make instructional decisions for the 26-27 school year. I know that typically in August, there will be a board retreat where we will come back together and look at our Lone Star governance goals, and we'll look at the constraints to determine if there is any modifications or adjustments that are needed. And again, constraints, again, because they're owned by the board, those are reviewed on an annual basis to make sure that they're still aligned with the constraints that you as a board feel are appropriate for the superintendent and district personnel.
So,
Yes, Dr. Garcia.
Dr. Booker, Viola Garcia. So yes, I wanted to go back because I had said I had a number of questions that I wanted you to finish the presentation on the content areas. So there were a good number. I'm just going to indicate the pages, Dawn. Maybe you can record them or however you want to do this. But this was very similar to the initial question that I asked on page 35. Page 37 has, again, all but one subgroup where the middle of the year and the end of the year scores all indicated either the same score or below, not score, but the percentage was below. So that was on 35, 37, 39. There were all but one subgroup on pages 37 and 39. And so that was the reading. In math, all subgroups in math on page 48 had lower percentages than the middle of the year, at the end of the year. 4 on page 50 for 5th grade, all of them in 6th grade on page 57, 4 of them on page 59 for 7th grade, and one group of 8th graders. So the question, it's the same general question that I had asked before, and I think I understand what you're saying. That they're setting completely different goals at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, end of the year. And I don't know that there is no comparison. So again, that column at the end, the differences don't make, we can't compare and say that there is a difference, because there really isn't a difference in anything that's similar or alike in terms of the same goal or achieving the same goal. These are different goals, right?
What we want to see, and I'll say the same thing that I shared when we first implemented math, growth over time equals achievement. And so what we want to see every time we test where there is a growth metric, so middle of the year, end of the year, we want to see over that 50% meeting or exceeding that growth metric. And we say strive towards 75. Really, we want 100% of our kids to meet their growth goal every single time. Reality, we say, let's strive for 75. 3 out of every 4 students should be meeting or exceeding their growth metric every time they test. But what we know up to date, until we run our correlations for this test, is that when you get over 50% of students in a class, students in a grade, students in the school, students in the district, meeting or exceeding their growth metric, you see achievement start to move. So last year when we were looking at this presentation and we talked about our kinder and second, and we talked about our 3rd grade results and our 3 through 8 literacy results, which were the highest, right, in the region and across the state, we knew, because we tracked right alongside of MAP that said we're meeting or exceeding those growth goals every time they test. And so while you can't make a direct connection between middle of the year and end of the year, what we can do is look and say, at middle of the year, did 50% or more % of our students meet or exceed the growth goal? And then at the end of the year, did 50% or more of our students meet or exceed that individual growth goal?
Okay, so good. I'm glad that you are the one that mentioned it, because I believe I've mentioned this every time. I agree that 50% is not sufficient, and I'm glad that you have also indicated that we have or will have an opportunity to look at those goals again, because the higher the goal and the higher the expectation, my belief has always been that students will achieve to what is expected. And so I really would hope that our board would begin to look carefully at those expectations and those goals, so that we don't want just half of the class to achieve their goal. We want 75% or more of the students to achieve their goal. So that's the one point that I agree with you on. And the second thing that I would also ask, and I believe I've asked it 2 years in a row now, maybe 3, is that while you have highlighted and indicated those schools that are way above the expectation, my bigger concern, and I'm glad for them, I'm glad that those schools are doing really, really well, but the concern for me is how can we support and help those students that are in schools where those goals were not achieved, and what is it that we can do, and what do we need to do as a board to understand how the administration is assisting, helping, providing resources for those students in those schools that are not highlighted and have not been highlighted in your, and I don't want to know the names, and I don't think that we should publicly say these schools are the ones that are not performing or underperforming greatly, or we don't need to do that. But I do want us to emphasize, rather than these schools are doing so great, these are the processes, these are the steps we're taking. We have schools that are not at these levels, and I would like for us to consider those things that we can do as a board, as an administration, to say that it's not acceptable for those students, because they are just as brilliant, they're just as smart as any other child. They're just at a school where perhaps the culture is not what it should be that would promote that sort of expectation, or there is not the supportive resources or materials or whatever it is. But I would rather have us discuss and share information about that than than to see the highlights. So those are the two things that I would agree with you on.
And then I just, for the new board members, number one, Dr. Garcia mentioned the 50%. And so we'll do what we've done in the past, which is actually bring our NWEA MAP experts to the table. I know that when we originally set the target of 50%, that was nationally the target that our NWEA experts gave us. That was where it was falling, but we will make sure during our Lone Star Governance Reset that we bring them back because of the new norms, to make sure that as a board, we have all of the data to decide and land on a target for our students. And then second of all, in reference to our schools that are at the top and some of our schools that may not be at the top, we'll do just like we do every summer. In June, we're gonna share all of our STAR data, and we'll have our MAP data laid right beside it with our goals. We share the highs, the lows, everything in between. You'll get big spreadsheets, small infographics. Right alongside that in August, we share accountability results. And part of all of that in between will be how we're supporting the schools that are not hitting the targets, how we're planning to replicate some of the practices that we're noticing at our campuses that are being successful. And so we'll start seeing all of that happen. Like I said, I'll send you an EOC email later this week, and then it'll just kind of move on the next few weeks. It'll just be a cycle of data and conversation, and then it'll culminate in the board retreat where we will look at all of this and make sure that this is aligned before we start the 26-27 school year.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
So the 50% was realistic, and it was all the way around, right?
Correct. The 50%. So what the NWEA experts tell us, and they've done lots of data. And again, I'm going to go back to not this year's assessment, but previously, they have done lots of study to say, where is that threshold that if students get 2 and or above, we're actually going to start seeing them not just grow, but achieve higher. And that was that 50%. And so when talking with NWA, we actually had it set at 47%, but NWA after the first year said, oh, we've looked at your results, like we think you can accelerate. You've had lots of accelerated growth. So we actually changed them and moved it from 50 to 53%. And we wanted to go higher. I know we had those conversations, but the MAP experts kind of cautioned us against it because they said you have to have 1 full year with the new assessment to make sure that it's still aligned in the same manner. And so now that we've had a full year, we can have them come back and say, based on our results, here's where we see your students falling. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Booker, I have a question for Dr. Rodriguez or Dr. Cantu. I know I mentioned the last time when we saw this data, and I understand that we have a dual language program, and I know we have subpopulations within those students, but I am still concerned looking at these numbers that some of the numbers for the subpops are going down even more so. And I know, Dr. Cantu, you mentioned that and you said we were looking at it, and I think my question at that time was, how long do we keep those kids in the program before we decide to move them out? And I do know that the parents opted for them to be in the program. I get that. But I know at the same time the goal is success. So I'm still wondering, looking at the numbers, because I saw one number sub-pop was 18%, which is already low. Now it's 10%. So it went down 8% within those 2 assessments.
Yeah, Dr. Booker, this is Fabiola Cantu, Chief Academic Officer. So we are very much looking at those numbers. The 18% that you're talking about was kindergarten. So this is their first year in the dual language program. Obviously, we want to see them do really well in that grade level by the end of the year. But we understand this is their first year. So what we go through and we did last time was look at where are every one of those students who is not considered an emergent bilingual student, who is learning a second language, who's learning Spanish in that program, and look to see whether or not they were hitting their goals on their target language. So I'm sorry, on their home language. So for example, are they meeting the goal in English tests, and for the most part they are. Almost every single student is still hitting their mark in English. They might not be where we want them to be in Spanish, and we absolutely want them to hit those targets in that second language as well, but we are monitoring closely their first language and making sure that they are hitting the target on that first language. In addition to just looking at the data, we also took a look, we did put some additional practices in place this spring as a result of the MOI after looking at the MOI data, and we did do some training for our teachers to support students specifically in second grade who are in the two-way dual language program. Our multilingual department provided in-class support for those teachers as well, small group instruction support. We did some parent meetings, additional parent meetings. We're still perplexed because overall second grade didn't move the way we expected it to, not just that particular subgroup or that program, just overall second grade is not where we wanted. We're still trying to figure out what exactly took place at second grade, because that's the only one where we went down overall. But for next year, some of the things that we're looking at doing is we have the LIFT grant, which we were awarded by the state, and it allows us to look at the systems that are in place to support instruction. And one of the areas after conducting a campus needs assessment that we saw that we want to provide additional support in through the LIFT grant is observation and feedback, so coaching and observation. And so next year we will be spending a great deal of time looking at how we're coaching teachers and how we're supporting them in their delivery of instruction. We updated, with the support of the schools office, the walkthrough tool that we use when we go into classrooms, and we have one that's specifically for foundational skills instruction. So are the sounds is the teacher delivering the sounds the way they are supposed to be delivered? Are we doing foundational skills instruction to the caliber that we need, so that the students have their, those strong phonics skills in place to be able to build on top of that? So we updated that walkthrough tool. We'll be putting that into place and having more of those walks so that we can provide coaching and observation feedback specifically for, it's all grade levels, but we're targeting first and second grade as well. And then you'll see in your, later on when we get to Mr. Mamani's agenda, that there is an item on there for decodable books. We looked at the data and looked at the schools that were most struggling, and we identified those campuses to receive additional support with decodable skills, professional learning on decodable skills and decodable skill books and foundational instruction. It also includes parent engagement support. And so these books will be books that are in the classroom, as well as books that will go home with students to support them in their foundational skills instruction, specifically for second grade, and specifically targeting those schools where we saw the dip in second grade instruction. So on MAP.
Okay, and also for data purposes and tracking, I know Mr. Moore had asked, do those students take a test in English and Spanish? And I think the answer was yes, at least for one of the subjects.
For reading, they will always take it in both languages because it's two completely different tests based on the literacy skills. For math, it is the same test, so they could take it in only one language. But the guidance that we provide for them is that the teachers allow the students to take that test in their primary language. Sometimes they also allow them to take it in their second language just to see how they do.
And Dr. Rodriguez, do y'all have that data somewhere that tracks the student? Okay.
We combined for purposes of reporting out, but we separated. Test in English, test in Spanish, test in both. Which one's better? What does it look like? We absolutely behind the scenes track it every which way.
Yes, and we track it in our multilingual department as well to make sure that our students are making progress.
All right, thank you. Ms. Williams.
So in their native language, they are doing well. It's just the other opposite, right?
Yes, for the most part, they are doing well. It's not at 100%. I don't have the exact number of the students, but the majority are. And when they're not, we do reach out to the campuses. We do ask for parent conferences. In just a handful of cases, what we see is that there may be other things that are taking place besides just the language proficiency. And so we go through that process of working through RTI to see if there's something else that's taking place besides language that's causing the student to not make progress in their primary language.
Okay, I'll move on to goal 4. I will go relatively quickly through goal 4 because we did an in-depth presentation just last month on, actually just a few weeks ago, it hasn't even been a month, on CCMR. So this is the percent of graduates that meet the criteria for CCMR, and increasing that from 64% to 85%. By August 2029. Again, specifically looking at TSI, looking at industry-based certificates plus completer status, looking at students who are earning dual credit hours, and then the percentage of our students who are enrolled in advanced academics. And so, as Dr. Boyd shared with you last month, these numbers are ever changing based on kids taking assessments, earning industry-based certifications, enrolling in advanced coursework. But you'll see for TSI, we are at 24%, which is over the goal of 23%. For industry-based certificates plus completer status, you will see we are at 28.4%, which is over the target of 15%. The target for dual credit is 27%. The district is currently sitting at 32.8%. And then the enrollment in advanced academics, again, the goal was 25% for the 25-26 school year, and the district is currently at 31.3%. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Melendez, who will cover the first two constraints, and then Ms. Sheila Adams, who will cover constraint number 3.
Before you go on, Dr. Garcia has a question or comment.
Thank you, Viola Garcia. It really is not a question for Dawn. It really is a similar request for the board to review as well the CCMR goals, as we have the opportunity to do so. Very clear on the summary that students will achieve and can achieve greater than our set expectations. So I would encourage us to increase those goals.
And I will say that when we go back to Lone Star governance this summer, accountability actually, and we haven't even talked about it, but it is in the process of being redesigned. And CCMR is at the top of the list to be redesigned. And so we will make sure that when we come back this summer that we'll also share the updates, because there are some pretty big updates on what's happening with CCMR, specifically in relationship to the college prep courses, industry-based certificates. It's not going to be just completer, but it's going to be completer and higher levels. The expectations for TSI, that's a whole different conversation, but we'll also bring that data so that when we look at our CCMR targets, we can have the most up-to-date data as well.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Moore.
Just in the long-term perspective, do you see or support CCMR as kind of an emerging alternative to STAR tests when you look at school districts? It's not, I know they're different. So how important is CCMR when we rate how well we're?
Very important. Very important.
Okay, so more important than STAR tests maybe, or is it just?
So I think there's a difference. There's an end of course assessment
That's why
says.
I'm asking
Yes.
which one the staff think is as a board what's more important?
I think they each have their place, Mr. Moore. Students are required per statute to take and pass the EOC assessments for graduation purposes. And so we want to make sure that they're set up to be successful. But we also know that CCMR provides the choices and opportunities that we always talk about, making sure that the student's able to, when possible, get college credit in high school, go down a pathway that should college not be the ultimate goal for the student, that they can provide they can be provided a living wage and be a productive citizen in society. And then just also making sure that our students are provided, again, not only choices when they leave us, but choices when they're with us, so that advanced coursework. So I think they run right alongside each other. They're both requirements from the state, but they serve different purposes, but they're both equally important, because there's the academic piece, but there's also, I'm gonna set you up for life piece, which is CCMR.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no further questions, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Melendez.
All right, good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, and the Board of Trustees. I will be covering the superintendent's constraints. And so constraint number 1 is student well-being. This is measured in our panorama survey. And for the 25-26 school year, we met our goal. It did not change from the end of year last year to the end of year this year. Well, it actually started a little bit higher this year, but we were able to meet it at 79%. We saw a very similar pattern with the staff and the same one last year, that they say pretty much the way that they start their survey. So it's good to see not going backwards. And then for student well-being, one of the things that we make sure that we're measuring is our discipline infractions. And so this slide represents the total number of discipline infractions at the elementary schools. The goal was to decrease 4% annually, and so we were able to reduce the incidents. We actually were negative 22. I know that you hear me talk a lot about discipline. You'll see in the, when we get to the secondary, that's where the increase came from. But for the elementary level this year, we were able to hit that goal. So lots of good work that was happening in our elementary schools, implementing our Teach Like a Champion strategies and making sure that we're working with our students. When we get to secondary, we see the increase there. And so I want to remind the board that this is measuring what we call our Big 6 incidents. So these are things like skipping, fighting, defiance of authority, marijuana, those big infractions that would cause culture to perhaps be questionable at a campus. Now, what I do want to point out for this particular one is that 61% of the increase here is coming from skipping. And so, and it's coming from the 5 comprehensive high schools. And so I'm pointing that out to say, because you're going to see attendance later for the high schools, and they increased it almost 1%. And so we've got to find that happy medium of making sure we're holding kids accountable, and they're working to ensure that students are in class. And so that's where this increase is coming from. And so you'll see that we did increase incidents there for our secondary schools. So this is going to be a combination of middle school as well as high school, but this is primarily driven by the high school. And here, did you have a question, Dr. Garcia?
I'll wait.
Okay.
For the student, before you finish the student, go to the adult, then I'll ask the question.
Okay. Here for the student well-being, this is the percentage of classrooms implementing our strong start and thresholding techniques. And so our goal for this year was 87% of all classrooms would make sure that they were implementing our 6 strategies, but particularly our strong start and thresholding. So the end of year was 87%. And then as you see this year, we're at 94%. So almost, not 100%, but almost every classroom is implementing our strong start and our thresholding. Very proud of the work that's happening at the schools with TLAC, and so you can see the evidence. And there were over 5,000 walkthroughs done in the schools this year for TLAC. So when we talk about monitoring and inspecting, when you're walking 5,000 different classrooms, that's data that this is the reality of what's happening in Aldine. And then for our student well-being, we saw the same trend for our students. And I actually had Panorama, and I'm having them kind of pull some information. One thing about this number is the number, but then it fluctuates at the different schools. So one school could start off higher and then go lower, then another school could be lower and start off higher, but the baseline is measuring about the same percent as where we're ending the year and where we're starting the end of the year for this year. For student absenteeism, here we're talking about chronic absenteeism. And so chronic absenteeism is, a reminder, is 10% of the school year, the number of students that are absent. And so for us as a district, our goal was 22%. We did decrease from last year. Here you'll see that we were at 25.3%. One of the things I do want to point out specifically whenever the board does come back together to decide the constraints and revisit them is the chronic absenteeism for the state of Texas is about 22%. So this is a very ambitious goal. Not that we can't rise to it, but considering that we have increased our average daily attendance by almost 2.25% in 2 years, but our chronic absenteeism remains here, just maybe something to consider. I don't know, not saying we can't get there, but it is definitely a lofty goal considering that the state's chronic absenteeism is 22%. And so here you can see that we did decrease it, but we did not hit the goal of 22% for this school year. And then for student absenteeism, here you'll see the percentage of students that have completed their raw week attendance interventions. And so 96% of all the interventions were completed by the campuses, which was an increase of 9%. And you'll see that as that continues to show up on the next few slides when we talk about what our average daily attendance looks like at the different grade bands. And for our student absenteeism for the elementary schools, we were able to hit our goal of 94.16 cents. 94, yes, feels like 94 cents. 94.16%. And here at the end of the year, we ended at 94.29. So that was a difference of 0.13 for our elementary schools. Our elementary school ADA at 94% is rivaling the state. And so that is a really good place for us to be as a district, for our ADA to be at 94%, considering our mobility and all of the things that we have in place, and considering that we're still, combating chronic absenteeism. So the elementary schools have done a really good job of getting kids to school, especially post-COVID. And then here you see the absenteeism for high school. I think this is huge. We have a lot of work still to do at the high school level, but the end of the year last year, we were at 88.87%. We ended this year at 89.77%. So that's 0.9%. So that's almost a full percentage point at the high school level. So once again, making sure the students are at school and that they're engaged when they are at school, and more importantly, that they're in class when they are at school. So there is definitely some correlation as we work with the high schools to make sure, yes, we need to address skipping, and we see the impact it does make on ADA, but we also need to make sure that we're proactively creating cultures where kids are in class. And so are there any questions before I turn it over to Sheila?
Yes, Dr. Garcia. Okay, Viola Garcia. So yes, this is primarily about the students. So on page 70, the strong sense of belonging and the no change. I'm concerned about that. I know that we are, of course, and Mr. Momani's mentioned it several times, we've all talked about the loss of enrollment. And so if we improve a student's sense of belonging, there's the sense that they will, and their families will say, this is a good place for my child, will stay, instead of suggesting, this isn't working, I'm leaving. So that we would want that to improve, I think is important. And that it stayed flat is concerning.
Well, it improved. We hit the goal. What it did is it stayed flat year over year this time last year. So we started this year higher than last year, but it didn't change from the start of the year of this year till last year. So the goal is reached, but yes, absolutely, we can always do more with our mental health and school support department to make sure that we're doing everything to make sure our kids feel welcome at school.
Right. Okay. And so, and then on pages 71 and 72, those infractions. Again, we had less infractions in the elementary group, but in the back of my head, I'm also thinking we had less students this year than we had last year. So if we can identify, this sense of well-being in a school, and I believe you're doing a good job and your team is doing a good job of trying to identify the repeat offenders here, which may be part of the reason that we have these infractions, a larger number of infractions may be, and I think you've shared that with us before, that it is this recidivism. They're the same ones doing the same sort of things. So whatever your teams can do to support those teachers and those students in those classrooms where those infractions are occurring is important, because to see a reduction in enrollment and then only see 22 less infractions at the elementary level when we've had, probably the largest drop in enrollment was in elementary school, over 2,000 probably, and to only have 22 less infractions, it just didn't make sense that we're at those low numbers.
So it's not 22 less infractions, we're 22 under the goal. So the goal was to reduce by 4%. So we hit the goal and then it exceeded it by negative 22.
Okay, all right.
So it's, yes, but we can always do more.
We can do better.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay.
And not only that, but actually we're in the process right now as we speak of looking at our SST process, which is at the elementary level, which is identifying students that are habitual behavior problems, and so intervening early. And so I'm very proud of the work that we're getting ready to roll out, because what we're going to do in essence is just giving you a sneak peek is identifying at the 4th week of school those students that are already on the radar.
Okay.
And then looking at that list again at the 8th week of school so that we're able to intervene rather than allowing that, especially at the elementary level, to turn into a problem. Because so much of our behavior that happens at secondary, had it been curtailed at the elementary level, we may have been able to intervene earlier. So we're being very intentional about that work for the 26-27 school year.
And I agree with you. If you set those standards and expectations at the elementary school, much like the attendance rates, then students will understand what's expected, even as they move up. So another concern of mine was on page 74. This is 1.4, CPM 1.4, and this has to do with the staff who indicate a strong sense of well-being. And again, the percentage did not change from the previous year to this year. And of course, 2, here is another indicator of, if the staff feels this, fine and wonderful at a school, the sense is that they're sharing that with students and they're expressing that with students. And if I would think teachers have a good sense of well-being, it's kind of shared with students. And so whatever we can do here to indicate a difference rather than to continue to maintain those lower levels, because that's 74, about 25%, 25 teachers out of 100 are saying, I don't have a good sense of this. So that too is not
Absolutely.
good. So whatever we can do there would be good. You've indicated the absentee rate. High schools, again, I've hounded on this, I don't know, probably 4 months in a row, I don't know. But I don't know what we can do. I know that probably circumstances for some of those high school students are that they care for others in the family. They work to support the family. They do various other things. So as much as we can identify and support those students, would be good.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the only other thing in this category is about the RAWI on page 77. I don't know it. I don't know the system, but my concern is that if we're depending so much on RAWI and we are improving and increasing that, yet we still have these interventions, particularly at the high school, does that system or those interventions fully involve face-to-face live contact rather than just a telephone message, your child was absent, please have them come to school the next day?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So RAWI is the platform that basically gathers the data and the information. And so actually the touch points in RAWI are all human being. So what RAWI does is it tells me as the campus administrator, clerk, Diaka was absent 3 times. Someone needs to call Diaka. So the system doesn't call, the clerk calls. So a human being calls and says, hey, we noticed Diaka hasn't been here at school. She's 3 days, just checking to see what goes on. And then that's noted in the system by the clerical staff. When Diaka hits 6 absences in elementary school, then Diaka goes on an attendance contract. And that is a touch point conversation that the parent signs off on. So once again, then there's the communication not only with the parent at the 3rd absence, but at the 6th absence. So RAWI is an amazing platform because instead of us manually pulling that information, which was, what we could have been doing, the manpower that we're able to get so that the work that we are doing is the actual physical contact and touch points.
Well, I would suggest that maybe the staff, the overage of staff that we have, I know it's a difficult thing and it's a risky safety issue, but our police department perhaps could help, is that it is not just the phone call that's going to make the difference. It is the face-to-face interaction with a family member to say, this is so important to us that your child succeed, and we want that child here at school. And so if we do have staff who have expertise in those areas and that we can form focus groups or committees or something by cluster groups in the surrounding areas of the district, that would help with this. Not only would we be improving average daily attendance, which increases our revenue, but it also supports the students' academic performance and achievement and sense of well-being in our
Yes, ma'am,
schools. So-
absolutely. And we do currently have our DRSs, our dropout recovery specialists, that do fill that void. So when a student, not only does a student get a phone call and then a student gets an attendance contract, but when a student hits a certain threshold, then we go to their house. So whether that's the DRS, whether that's me, we go to the home and we, talk to the families about, why are you not at school? A lot of times, especially at the secondary level, I don't think this will be a surprise to anybody, a lot of them are working.
Right.
So we're very proud of being able to offer, for example, night school as an option this year, because so many of our students that are juggling full-time jobs, they want to finish school, but having that opportunity for something that works better with their schedule is something that we implemented, and we had 100% of the students that attended night school graduated.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about that.
That was wonderful. So I would just, I don't know, Dr. Goffney, the extent to which you have just had discussions exploring the opportunities that we'll have available with that excess staff this coming year, but a short, brief survey of those staff members to indicate your level of expertise in 4 areas, 3 areas, 5 areas, whatever it is. I would want to be a counselor in the future, whatever sorts of things, so that we can have a specialized team that would work with existing staff that do those specialized tasks that support students, the tutoring, the whatever it is that we are no longer able to support, that we could support with the excess staff, given their indication of their own willingness to do that kind of work, I think would be a little bit more far-reaching than simply expecting somebody to go do something that they really would abhor doing and would not be something in their nature to do. So it just occurred to me as she was saying that's a possibility for us to explore. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Ms. Williams? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Moore.
Go ahead, please.
So how safe is that
How
for
safe
you?
is-
Since you go, do you go with a police officer or you go with a
No.
partner? So it's not safe.
It's safe.
Oh, it's safe.
What makes it safe?
I live there.
What makes it safe?
Don't make me tell them about it.
I've never ever gone to a home and felt any kind of fear. And now I'm not a fan of dogs, so if I see a dog, I'm not going. But short of that, I mean, our families and our community, I've never gone to a home and anyone told me to leave, because they know we're there for your kid.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if not all the time, they can't believe someone's physically at the home. Sometimes they've moved. So I've never felt fear. If I ever felt fear, then, I wouldn't go, but and my team has ever felt fear. Like I said, dogs, we did have someone get bit by a dog, but
Someone got bit by a dog?
he did get bit by a dog, but he's fine.
Okay. So you go alone?
I have,
You
yes.
go alone?
President
Do we
Booker.
have a truancy officer?
The DRSs, they go.
They're officers?
I don't go all the time. I usually go during the summer. And so, but like I said, I've never felt the fear. When I was a principal, I did it all the time. I mean, that just was part of the work. Like, if I want to know where my kids are, then somebody's got to go look. And so I don't even blink an eye about it. But thank you for inquiring about my safety.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. I'm all right. I'm from Vallejo, California.
Chief Cordova.
President Booker, Chief Cordova, we have accompanied school staff upon request. That happens, I don't want to say very frequently, but I hear the officers going with school staff to do home visits. So that does occur.
Yes, absolutely. When the school needs someone to go, or the student support specialist, they'll go with the DRSs. Me, I'm just going to get in the car. I'll be all right.
In the climate, we have to be careful about that. I know our police, I'm very proud, we have great relationships with our communities, but we have to be careful about pulling up in a police car. And so, but yeah,
Pulling up in a police car, you said?
pulling up in a police car. Yeah.
Yeah, they may not necessarily always answer the door for the police.
Okay.
They may answer the door for me.
Okay.
Mr. Moore?
Be safe.
Thank you.
I try not to make personal comments, but I've got to compliment you on your attitude about not worrying about, wow, this person lives in an unsafe place.
Thank you.
That I really appreciate that attitude. Okay, I try not to share my comments that way, but because I have a similar situation, and And so I resonate with your willingness to walk the walk of the person that you're trying to help.
Right.
So, but I have 2 real questions.
Okay.
Please. The one of the high school level, I suppose high school level, that skip, where that's where you have most of them anyway. Just ballpark, how many of them are skipping because they just want, because they're cutting class for the thrill or because they can, and how many of them are cutting class because they've got a job? I mean, just roughly, what's the ratio?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you exactly for every incident. I can give you some context and looking at the numbers. I mean, some of it is your traditional, they're teenagers.
Yeah, is that half or is that most of them?
I don't, Mr. Moore, I wouldn't feel confident quantifying that number without a little bit more information. Sometimes it's students that are just getting late to school. And so they're coming into the building and either bypassing, they're coming in through the front, but instead of getting a tardy, they may just try to go straight to class. So it could be a myriad of things. I think our kids, as we have said time and time again, when the expectation is there, they rise to it. So, no good deed goes unpunished. So on one end, you may see an increase in skipping, but you see a huge increase in attendance. So it lets me know that even though we are definitely seeing that particular infraction increase, kids are at school at a much larger number than they were before. And so it's just finding that happy medium, once again, of having a high standard of expectations and still being able to be realistic about what our discipline data looks like.
All right, well, since you didn't answer, I'll take a wild guess that even though we have a lot of kids that are working, the majority of them that are not there, it's not because they're at a job.
Well, skipping is different than just not being at school. Being not at school is absent. Skipping means I'm physically on the premises, and so I'm not in the classroom or the designated area that I should be. So those are definitely.
Well, then it's definitely not work related the majority of the time, I guess. Okay. The other question was about the pressure on people sometimes to give the desired answer. So if you ask students and especially teachers, do you feel wonderful about where you work? There's going to be this pressure to put the yes answer, even if you're not really thinking yes. So how do you get that data? Is it a questionnaire? I mean,
It's a panorama survey. So panorama is our survey that we administer to all students and staff. The panorama survey for the staff is voluntary. And so we don't make anybody do that. We try to hit a certain threshold of participation, just like with all surveys. We literally just talked about this earlier. You get different people filling out surveys for different reasons. Considering everything that has occurred this year, I think it was quite amazing that it did not decline, considering just everything that's going on with education and just staffing. And so at the end of the day, this is the platform that we've been using for several years. And so we have a really good relationship with Panorama. It goes very deep into the data in all kinds of ways, and more ways than you could ever imagine. They're very responsive. So if you ever want to sit down and kind of just look at it, I'll be more than happy to do that with you.
The reason I asked that, because I had one long time ago, I had a teacher say to me that she didn't trust giving accurate results on a questionnaire because she figured somebody might know she was filling it out. And I just want to know that you've covered that hesitation.
We've never even asked anybody a question about it. Never. It's anonymous. They know it's anonymous. And
so the people answering it know it's anonymous. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's
and Mr. Moore, we triangulate that data. So every year since Dr. Goffney came to the district, we send out a staff survey at the end of the year. So asking some of the questions that are similar to Panorama, but also asking more in depth and breaking it down by department so that we can get to the root of, is it just at schools? Is there a specific department? So we're able to triangulate that data from campuses to determine, are we getting it multiple times? What does it look like? Are there specific comments that we can resolve during the summer as well?
That's a good answer, because experts say if you ask a question 3 different ways from 3 different directions, that's how you can see if you actually trust the answer. So you feel you've addressed it that way.
We do triangulate the data and ask the question multiple times.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right, I will hand it over to Ms. Adams.
All right. Good evening, President Booker, Dr. Goffney, and members of the board. I'm Sheila Adams, Chief Communications Officer, and we are moving on to Constraint 3, which is our customer service experience. So the superintendent shall not operate without a high-quality customer service experience and support systems to maintain positive and productive partnerships with families and stakeholders. And so this year, as I'm sure you all know, we have implemented the Aldine Promise, and we are training our staff to be prompt and professional and proficient and proactive. And just as Dr. Booker alludes all the time, customer service is extremely important. And so we know that excellent customer service is not only going to keep our parents and students engaged and returning every year, but we also know it helps to welcome our new students and families. And so this constraint, as you will see, this particular restraint refers to the family survey results indicate that parents receive information from their child's school about what can be done by parents to help their student improve his or her learning. And so we have the FACE department, PFE clerks, they're on each campus, and they basically help giving home messages and things like that to help improve student outcomes. And so we have systems in place to help our parents feel like they have enough information to educate their children and help train them. And so if you look at this particular constraint, we've actually had a decrease, which is what we want. We want a decrease of unfavorable responses. And so originally it was at 14%, and now it's gone down to 4%. So that's a difference of -8. So that's progress. And next, we have the completion rate of district customer service training for our front office campus employees. We want them to increase from 75% to 90%. This year, we have a 91%, which is a 12% increase. And our customer service training is multi-layered. So whenever you become an employee at Aldine, you are onboarded with customer service training. We also have in-person customer service training for our staff, the front-facing staff, our secretaries, PFE clerks, people like that. And then we also have a training on EduHero, and that is our platform that is our professional development that is online. And so we have that increase for customer service training for our campus staff as well as our district customer service. And this year, not only did we train our district front-facing staff for all of our departments, but we also trained our principals because we feel like those expectations can be set by them. Next, we have our two-way communication. And as you look at this, we have families from the campus as measured by the annual FACE survey will increase the two-way communication from 88% to 93%. We're currently at 86%, which is a decline, so we do have room for improvement. But just to kind of let you know what some of that two-way communication can be, it's phone calls, text, emails. We have a platform called Let's Talk. We have talking points. We have all of these different ways to communicate with our parents. So when you're looking at this, this is a high expectation, and I feel like you have to also consider that there are parents that may opt out of two-way communication, except for maybe their emergency communication, and so that might be why this number may tend to go down. But we originally started at 90%, well, no, it was 88%, and we wanted to increase 1% per year. So we do have a little bit of room for improvement there, and we'll continue our two-way conversations and communications. And the next slide that we have is our two-way communication with families from the district as measured by the number of communications sent to families through HAC, which is our Home Access Center. And so we've increased from 12 to 20, we want to increase from 12 to 24 by 2029. And as you can see, our end of year target was 15, and we've increased by 1. And those are messages that are sent out through Dawn's department, and they may be information about just to update your HAC account. It may be report cards, just different things that parents can do through the HAC account. Okay, do you have any questions?
Dr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you for your report. I just was wondering on page 82, the responses, the number of responses that you're getting for the parent surveys.
Oh, this year we received 13,000, which was an increase from last year.
Okay, so those are posted, parents can
Yes.
go to them online and
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Social media, emails, all the things.
Okay.
And I want to say last year we had 11,000, so we had a pretty good increase.
Okay, and so do we have a sense, I mean, the concern that I had there is that there are some families that don't have access. They don't have connectivity access and the devices or whatever it is that they might be able to use to do that. So you think that's a good number?
I do. I really do. Mhm.
All right, the second question that I have is, well, one related question to that is that there have been reports of well, I'll get to it in a minute. So the staff training, I'm glad that you have said that you've increased that from just front-facing office staff
Yes.
to principals. I hope you include assistant principals because responses from parents, and I know that this was something that was discussed when I brought it up either last year or the year before, that there was a concern that there was even such a concern by parents, but there is still.
Absolutely.
That there's a sense of, the sense of not belonging at some locations, at some of our settings. So I think it's important that not just front-facing staff, but office staff, but that others are included in that. And then on page 85, I do have a big concern about the let me get to the page so I can find it again. The two-way communication. I think it's important. And again, the most effective communication in most cases is the face-to-face. I know that's not always possible. There's some parents that are there and their kids are going to do just exceptionally well. It is the involved parent's child who is going to probably do better than the parent's child that does not come to school as frequently. And that's not always because they don't want to, but because they can't. Physically, transportation, other issues that they may have. So I'm glad to see that we are increasing the two-way communication with families, but I think it's important that we continue to extend for the sense of well-being or a sense of belonging for families. So again, that we're reducing that loss of enrollment and improving student achievement. And then the next one has to do with the communication numbers that you mentioned. Increasing, and I know that this says two-way communication, but there are in families children that will share, whether it's a flyer, a sheet of paper, and other children who will not open their backpack to parents. Parents ask what's in there. So I hope that there are various ways in which this communication is occurring, and so that it's not always the same.
Yes,
and that
even in marketing, you're always told that you need to have 7 touch points before somebody receives a message, and so we make sure that we're hitting different touch points so that we can ensure that all parents receive the message.
Right, because I think it's so important that the parents are the partners with us in the work that is being done in schools.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Ms. Perez?
I just wanted to ask, on Facebook, they have that Aldine ISD Parents and Community. Are you guys like watching that? Because there's a lot of conversation on that.
There is a lot of conversation
That's it.
on there.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Chief, this is Viola Garcia. Is that positive communication? Is it positive?
Some of it is, yeah.
Both? Okay.
It is.
Also, Chief Adams, this is Dr. Booker. I just wanted to know the customer service that you're speaking of, that you're always talking about with the staff. I wanted to know, is it possible that the board receives the same customer service training?
Absolutely.
That would be great.
That's a great idea.
We can do it in the retreat. We can do it in the retreat.
Absolutely.
Yes, Trustee Williams.
Can you train us like Chick-fil-A train other people?
It would be my pleasure. Thank you.
And if there are no further questions, that will complete our formal Lone Star governance training for the year. Again, in July, we will go through STAR data. And then in August, we will go through accountability data, and we will start talking and looking at approving the board monitoring calendar for the 26-27 school year. And that concludes my portion of the agenda.
That's it for you. Woo. Thank you for the detailed, thorough information. We are going to move on to the information from for the board. Okay, to all board members, this is an update on the following upcoming professional development opportunities. We also have PD for the board. We have a Summer Leadership Institute, SLI, in San Antonio. The registration and hotel accommodations have been completed. Thank you, Ms. Loera. If you have a conflict in your schedule, we know things change, please let Ms. Yolanda know so we can make those adjustments. We do not want to cause the district to incur any fees unnecessarily. And also, speaking of that, I think Ms. Loera has also told us that we have met the requirements not to be there on Saturday. So if you want to leave on Friday, you can. Once again, we are cutting budgets everywhere, including the board. So we do not want to have the district to incur any unnecessary fees. So the conference will end in a good time.
3:45.
You don't have, what time?
3:45.
At 3:45, so it's still daylight. Also, you don't have to worry about dinner. No one is gonna provide dinner on that day, so you can make it home and be with your family for dinner. And if you do decide for whatever reason to stay for that Saturday, let Ms. Loera know that as well. And they have a couple of sessions, and only thing they will provide is breakfast. And that's probably not gonna be a full breakfast. So you can catch breakfast at home. Also, we are, speaking of budgets for the board, we are modifying our budget as well. And so in the past, a lot of board members were able to go to many different functions. Upcoming year for us as well, we are going to attend as many free options as we can. The ones that are offered by Region 4, there's no cost to the district, but the ones that do cost, we're gonna have to look at those and decide. And I'm letting everyone know now that we do like to attend meetings, but because of the budget, everyone would not be able, and it's nothing personal, it's the budget. Everyone will not be able to attend all of the events. Some of the things we will go to as a whole, such as the TASB, also the Summer Leadership Institute in San Antonio. We are looking at the TASB Legislative Conference, and we're gonna ask if they would want to, just the advocacy committee to attend that one, not the entire board, and that's optional. Okay, things like MOSBA, 1 or 2 members, as well as the governance camp. I think at this point, everyone has attended the governance camp. I think we were all there this last March, so that should be covered. That includes the Texas Caucus of Black School Board members, and that covers it. So we are modifying our budget as well, because we are trying to get our deficit down. So we have also included an agenda for you to look at for the upcoming trainings that are available, and you can fill it out at your leisure, which ones that you are interested in attending, and we would definitely take that in consideration. You have a concern?
No, I just, there is, in our board operating procedures, there are some important elements that I think it would be important for the board to review. I think the most important piece there is that any of those that are attended are because we are satisfying the continuing education credit for board training. And so I don't know, I want to make sure that we are doing that.
And we are, and we also going to consider, and we may have to put this in our policy, considering that we're in a deficit. So although we are going to maximize our opportunities to attend trainings, and also we mentioned training TOTs. So sometimes, as you mentioned earlier for the staff, if we can have board members to attend certain conferences, we can come back and train each other. So we're going to participate in TOT as well. So at your leisure, we have the sheet, and you can just, we don't have to make decisions now. This is for the upcoming year. The conference for SLI has already been approved, I thought, for this year. We're talking about the following year. Okay. All right, moving on. 803. School improvement and student support services, Ms. Melendez.
Good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, and the Board of Trustees. I have 5 agenda items. The first one begins on page 97. I'm going to go into a little detail for our new board members, as these are reoccurring things that appear every year. The first one is our agreement between Harris County Youth Services. Our CYS workers, we have 2 that are assigned to Aldine ISD. We split the cost between us and Harris County. They provide a myriad of services, specifically housing, shelter, helping families with like the electric bill. They are the liaison and do an excellent job of us getting information from CPS and expediting information. So this is a partnership that we continue to have. Are there any questions with this particular agenda item?
Any questions from the board?
Yes, just
Dr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Viola Garcia. There's just a correction on page 100. You'll note on C, I believe that will be changing.
Which one?
C on page 100.
Yes, she's here now, but yes, we will be making the change. She will
Okay. All right.
be retiring.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next, my next agenda item is on page 115. And this is going to be our interlocal agreement between Harris County Department of Education, High Point East, and Aldine ISD. High Point is our agreement that allows us to have 30 spots available that we are able to send students that have exceeded the discipline capacity at Aldine ISD. So think of students that have been already sent to the DAP here, KEC, that need an alternative placement. We're able to use these 30 spots each year, and they are interchangeable. So as one student leaves, we are able to place another student there each year. And just for a little historical context, we have placed 61 kids there in 23-24, 53 kids in 24-25, and 59 will be the final number for this academic year. And so are there any questions in regards to this item?
Dr. Garcia?
Yes, Viola Garcia. Just so for clarification then, although we have 30 spots and 57, you said, or 8 were served this year, it is because they are not recurring. In other words, a student is not there for the entire year.
They don't necessarily have to be. They're
That's right.
assigned as-
So the 30 spots are sufficient.
Yes.
Okay.
We've only, since I've been here, only had to purchase 2 extra spots once.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, another question?
Ms. Williams?
Is that like a second chance program?
I wouldn't necessarily, it can be. And so think of if we send a student, for example, to KEC for fighting, and then they get to KEC and they assault a teacher. Well, they've exceeded the capacity where we would be able to service them. So we utilize High Point for that. We occasionally have students that are coming to us from out of district that have certain high-level felony charges. So we don't want those students to matriculate back into our school until they've actually done time at High Point. Then they usually transition back through KEC, then back to the home campus. And so that's what we utilize High Point for.
Okay. We get the credit for the kids?
Do you get the what?
Do we get the credit for them?
Like the attendance? Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Is this boarded in or just daytime?
Is this what?
Overnight.
Overnight?
No,
They
no,
don't
no.
stay there?
This is a school.
Okay, didn't think so.
No. Okay. The next agenda item is on page 122. And this is going to be our interlocal agreement with Fortis. Fortis is a treatment program for our students that are dealing with substance abuse. Luckily, we are not having to purchase any seats for Fortis for this upcoming school year. They will all be free. And so we have utilized this program and actually were recognized by Harris County for the work that we've done with Fortis and recognizing that our students that need that additional help. So we are featured actually on their website for the work that's happened in Aldine with Fortis. Are there any questions for this particular item? Okay. If not, then my next agenda item is on page 129. And this is going to be our memorandum of understanding with Harris County Juvenile Board for the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. So JJAEP is where we would send students who have mandatory expulsions. So think firearm, those type of infractions. High Point is discretionary, so we can make the choice of who we send to High Point. We are required to send students to JJ based on the infraction for the offense. So we utilize JJ for mandatory expulsions, and we utilize High Point for discretionary removals from the district. Are there any questions regarding this item?
Dr. Garcia?
Yola Garcia, yes. On page 129, you described that there's 7 students that were enrolled this year. How does that compare to previous years, the number?
So last year we had 10, the year before that 5.
Okay.
And so it just depends. And once again, if a student comes to Aldine ISD with a, let's say this is true, attempted murder charge, then that child is automatically sent to JJ. But because they reside in Aldine, we must enroll them because they're in our attendance zone. So most of our infractions are for almost every single thing is for something that has happened outside of school.
Okay. And they just happen to live in our district?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then the next item is on page 143. And this will be the monthly discipline report that you're accustomed to seeing. The year we finished much better than we had been. And so are there any questions in regards to this particular item?
Mr. Moore?
Well, I'm just more here. What's the cost for the previous item for the year?
JJ?
Yeah.
I doubt that there isn't a cost that we pay for JJ. It's mandatory. It's just our agreement that we have with them.
Well, who pays it then?
Who pays it?
The state pays
the
it?
state.
Or,
Yeah,
okay.
because these are required expulsions, so we have to remove the students.
And-
Whereas High Point, we are choosing to remove them.
Okay, so but once they go there, we don't pay for their time there?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have an...
You have a question?
Yes.
Dr. Garcia?
Yes. Dr. Melendez, I'm going to go back to page 138. I'm sorry, this is still JJAP. So we have numbers for all of the other districts for previous years, but not for Aldine. Is there a reason?
On page 138.
138. The population of, and the categories.
I will have to find out why that it has zeros on it. I see the total number, but I don't see it broken down. But it looks like that for Crosby, there's several districts that have that. So I will have to find out, Dr. Garcia, why that's on here.
Okay, all right. So this is just something that we received from
Yes, this
from
is something that they
JJP.
populate.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank
But
you.
I'll find out why
Okay.
ours is 0 and why some other districts have 0. Sheldon has 0, Tomball, Crosby, Humble.
Well, no, we says at the bottom that we have the number of seats, but that we have 8 slots available, and she just indicated, I asked about the previous year, except that this is for 2025. Okay, all right, she'll ask. Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding the monthly discipline report? If not, that will conclude my items. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melendez. Okay. Transformation Office, Dr. Bustillos.
Good evening, Board President Booker, Dr. Goffney, members of the board. I'm Adrian Bustillos, the Chief Transformation Officer. Tonight, I have several items for approval and 2 items for information. My first item starts on page 145. The first item is the approval of amendment to the additional day school year ADSI school calendar at Irmo, Harris, and Vines Primary for the 26-27 school year. Just to give a overview of the requirements by the state. The state requires 175 instructional days and the 75,600 instructional minutes to implement the ATSE program and unlock the additional funding. As we were going through the planning process this summer and further examination of the school calendar, we are actually 2 days short to reach 175 school days. So we come to you to make the changes to ensure that we are in compliance with the ATSE 175 days. And this would just be moving some days that we have done. What we have done in the past several years is we've tried to align the ATSE calendar with the district traditional calendar. And by doing that, the reason why we're short the 2 days is that in January, when we come back from school after the winter break, there's usually 2 professional days to the teachers. The ATSE campuses have not had that in the last 4 years. And so one of the changes that was recommended was to add that additional day. And then our second goal for the ATSE is to always end in June before the Juneteenth holiday. Well, the Juneteenth holiday falls on a Saturday this year, and so the calendar committee went back and put June 18th as an observation day to celebrate it, and so they pushed the 2 days back. So that's why we were short 2 days. So to stay within the number of days in contract that we have, we will exchange the November 3rd PD day to a regular school day, and then go back to the original January 5th PD day to a regular school day. Same process we've had for the last 5 years. Are there any questions? Okay, my next item starts on page 149. And this is the approval for the Memorandum of Understanding between Lone Star College and Aldine ISD for the Aviation P-Tech for Pathway Specific and Core Content for the 2026 through 2028 school year at Davis High School. The aviation program is the program we've had in partnership with United Airlines. This is probably the 8th year of the program that we've had. You have some of the board members have come to see that our students are graduating with their first private pilot license at graduation, but also we have students at the age 16 earning their unmanned pilot license as well. So you know, Ms. Williams, when I was 16, I was excited to get my driver's license. Well, today these kids are getting an unmanned driver's license to fly these drones, which I do want to point out, it's a industry-based career where students can earn up to $65,000 to start. So it's very critical that we provide these choices and opportunities. And we talked about CCMR. This is how it ties together. So our partner for this work has been Lone Star College, and our campus is the Montgomery campus that supports the Lone Star College. So this is a renewal that we do with the Lone Star College. Are there any questions about this?
Any questions from the board? I see none.
Okay, my third item starts on page 174. And this is a approval of the interlocal agreement with University of Texas On-Ramps and Aldine ISD. This is a renewal program. Again, when we talk about the CCMR data, this is just another lever that we can use to get students to earn college credit in high school. The UT on-ramp system is through the University of Texas at Austin, and we have a little bit of flexibility here where the teachers do not have to be have a master's degree. Rather, the credentialing units come through the University of UT Austin, and the teachers get the training, the students claim the credit, and the students do not have to pass the TSI assessment to get the credit. So we do offer dual credit with Lone Star College. We have the AP courses, and then we have this pathway, the UT on-ramps. So this is just another level we use for students to have that opportunity to earn dual credit instruction. And this is a renewal that we bring each year to you. Are there any questions?
I see none.
Great. The next item is for information only. This is on page 196. As we continue to bring a monthly update for district optimization, I want to be upfront with the board and where we're at today in the process, as we did to vote to close additional 2 schools and 3 schools due to the 2023 bond. We have made and achieved significant progress across the closing schools. Most of all schools now have their boxes set up and are being delivered to the new incoming receiving schools this week. So we hope by the end of this week, all of the schools that are receiving teachers will have their teacher items delivered to their staging area in the cafeteria, so our teams can start to move them into their classrooms that they're going to be assigned to. We did need a little additional support at Teague Middle School. We used and mobilized our fine arts team, athletics, career and technical education department to assist teachers in getting those items cleaned out. These are the first year we're doing in middle school, but we're still on track to get the information, the items and supplies to their next school. So that will be done by this week. And because all those boxes are set up, they were set up to go up in the school year, we're ahead of schedule. So we don't anticipate any delays to the start of school, just as like we have the past 3 years. Are there any questions on this item?
Dr. Garcia?
Yeah, Viola Garcia. So, Mr. Bustillos, we had, Dr. Bustillos, we had concerns last year in the moves. So, as you have met with the administrators and the schools, the employees in those schools that are being closed, have there been any expressions of concerns or any particular thing that the board needs to know about?
At this time, I have not been aware of any, and we do hold a weekly meeting every Monday morning with all the principals that are closing and that are receiving, so our team has a direct line to share. I don't believe, Dr. Vial, if you can chime if you've heard him directly.
Have your meetings been with other than principals? In other words, other than the initial meeting after the board vote and the community meeting, that was a meeting with the staff. Have there been other meetings with staff by any administrators other than just
Yes.
with the principals?
So after the approval, we did meet with the staff to let them know that it was approved. And then also Human Resources went in to meet with the staff to find out from them personally where they wanted to be assigned to. And so, yes, it's very smooth this year.
Okay, we hope so.
Dr. Booker, I would like to just comment. On the technology department, we've been helping with the campuses also, Dr. Garcia, and so we've been helping with teachers if they had something to move. We've been working with the admin team to make sure they had something to move so they didn't have to carry things. And so that's been going great. We've already removed all technology items from each classroom at each of the closing campuses. And so now we're just sorting everything, and all campus technology has been moved to the new locations of the staff.
And Dr. Bustillos, this is Dr. Booker. I just wanted to know if the staff that are moving, if they wanted to, do they have an option of going to that school and setting up earlier if they want to? It's not, I know it's not mandatory, it's their summer break, but if they wanted to.
They are allowed to go and set up earlier if they like. At their own discretion. We are not paying them extra dollars to come during that time because we have built-in time for them when they come to the campus to set up their classrooms. But yes, they are allowed to.
They have to work with the campus and
So they work with the principal, the operations.
If they're redoing the floors and painting walls and doing other things, so it's a process.
Yeah, it's a process.
But you said it's time already built in, extra time?
Yeah, just like we did last year when the teachers came back to the campuses. Dr. Villarreal worked with the premise leaders to find time for those teachers to set up their classrooms ahead of time. Okay, if there's no additional questions, we're going to move to the last item. That's an update, and this is actually something super excited to share with you all. Mr. Shanklin, you're going to like this, and I think all the board members. So we're going to move up to the podium real quick. So we have been talking about artificial intelligence the last several years. Mr. Moore, you probably are very familiar with that. You may have some specialty tools. Ms. Williams, you have probably used ChatGPT or Gemini in your daily work. Dr. Booker, you have seen the power behind some of these tools of generative AI and adaptive AI that are going to help our students increase student achievement. Again, this is not to replace teachers, but it's to help supplement the learning for Tier 2, Tier 3 instructions possibly, but also help our district staff, our operations team, our hourly employees, our professional employees to be more efficient and use tools to help accelerate learning and instruction as an overall process. So what we have done here Aldine is that in December, we actually launched our AI task force. So over the last 6 or 5 years, you've heard about the literacy framework, the math framework, all the things framework in the district. So now we're aligning our AI framework with this AI task force that we've launched to help us guide our strategy and implementation and what's going to be next as we set guidelines for AI. One thing we do know is that this is evolving technology. So it's hard to say that we're going to come to you with a policy and this is AI policy because it's going to rapidly change. So what we're looking for is guidance within our system to understand the buckets of works we're going to lead, and then we can adapt and change as we go. So we are doing a cross-functional team. This is not the action just of one department, but you can see here we're working with the Office of Transformation, Teaching and Learning, Schools Office, Technology, Communications, and the AAA department to ensure that we can get this feedback and we can drive what we can accomplish here as a district with using AI. So what we did is during this meeting is that we looked at large urban systems that have already provided some guidance or documents on how they're using AI instruction. So we looked at Chicago Public Schools, we looked at Denver Public Schools, we looked at Gwinnett Public Schools in Atlanta, Hillsborough County of Florida, and Charlotte Mecklenburg to learn about what they've done. And so their AI guidance manuals are, some of them are very complex and detailed. Some of them are very general. And there was a good range to see like, what are we trying to accomplish? So we can have our own AI framework in the district. What we don't want is to have this AI template to be driven by vendors. Many times you get a call and the first thing they say is, this is AI. Well, that's great. Get in the line. We got to see how do we change achievement and work efficiently for our schools. So we want to have this guideline to help us shape that. Does these tools meet the vision that we're using in our district? So what our charge was from this committee was to survey our district needs. So we sent out a district survey to all employees across the district. We engaged with our student ambassadors with this superintendent, and this was actually a very fun group because when we got to them to show them what was possible, they're like, we're way ahead of you. So that just tells us, Ms. Bettis, we got to get on it and move as fast as they are, because then they will get too far ahead of us. So we want to make sure that we have some guidelines. We can protect student data and the student safety, and also the teachers and our data infrastructure as we go through the process. We work with the superintendent parent advisory group and our business and faith-based groups to learn about what is possible. So in this survey, we just general questions like, what do you know about AI? Are you familiar with AI? Some comments, but we also asked if they wanted to take part in an in-depth interview through empathy and focus group so we can gather the voice to help shape what AI is. And just, we had 150 people say, yes, we want to take part of it. We had about 80 of them who actually showed up when we reached out. But the comments were very interesting. Some were like, yes, we need this now, let's go fast. And we had others that say, no, shut this down, this is bad. And there we had a great majority say, hey, I want to learn more about it. This could help us. So it was, I think, a right combination of individuals who gave us feedback to help start this process. So what we have done, we've got the data. We're starting to identify emerging themes to shape what this will be. So as we come back to you, hopefully every quarter, we will give you an update and we will share out what our AI framework. So right now it's in development. We'll take it back to our AI task force. We'll share with them. We'll start shaping it, and then we'll come up to you all to show this is what it is, and this is how we're going to push it out into the district. But there are some tools that we are currently using, and I'm going to have my two colleagues here, Adam Galvan and Dr. Fabiola Cantu, come up to talk about some of the tools we have for generative AI and adaptive AI in instruction. And you may be familiar with some of them because we've talked about them, we've seen them, and you may have experienced with them. So I'm going to turn over to Mr. Galvan.
So since 3 years ago, we started looking at AI and trying to figure out what would work good for us, what would work good for maybe students. We did take the stance where we didn't allow students to use AI in the district. We made sure to block that. We wanted to make sure whatever we rolled out, it was going to work, and we can make sure we put guardrails and guidelines for everybody. And so the first one we have here is a generative AI, and basically that's when you're typing in something into a prompt and you're trying to figure out, for us, we use it for our ticket system. So my team will use Gemini. We'll take a screenshot of all the campuses in our work order system, and it will show us how many tickets are at each location. We'll quickly upload that picture, and then my team will turn around and ask questions. Who's the highest count right now of tickets? Organize all the schools and put them in order based on how many Chromebooks are out there that are tickets related. And so it quickly gets them to get that data, because the system we have doesn't work as fast as it does with what we can use with Gemini. And so today we use Magical AI, Gemini AI, and we also use Notebook LM. The other item we have is Adaptive AI, and I'm going to let Dr. Cantu talk about that a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Adam. I did want to just touch on Notebook LM. So right now, when you are, you have a question about something that you're not sure of, you could go to the internet, you can ask Google, and you see that that becomes more adaptive. For example, if you were wondering, well, you know, the World Cup is coming up on Thursday, what time does a Paraguay-Colombia game start? And then it'll tell you it's going to start at this time. You can ask Google, right? It's something I might have asked more than once. Yeah, and what's the schedule? So you can ask that in Google. But what if you were a teacher, or a principal at a campus, and you're wondering, what is the language of the assessment for MAP if you're in third grade dual language, right? You wouldn't go to Google to ask that question because it doesn't have our information. You might, call a colleague or look at the MAP manual. But what if you don't know if you should look at the MAP manual? Or, we have so many different places that administrators can look. We can house all of those different notebooks, all of those different guidebooks, guidance documents in Notebook LM, and an administrator could go into Notebook LM, ask that question there, and it would be able to find the answer for them because it's searching in our own items, in our own district materials. In our sources, correct. Yes.
That's the right question.
Yes. And so when we're looking at then adaptive AI, what we're looking at here is we are looking at programs that are working to personalize instruction so that every single student has the exact information that they need or the exact skills that they need to be working on that's necessary for them to access grade level content and to fill in some of those gaps that they might have from previous in their learning, right? And so one of those tools that we have been utilizing, we started as a pilot before expanding, and then now we're seeing really great correlation between the use of Amira and additional data points in our system. So Amira is that product that is able to adapt. It uses AI to adapt to the students' responses in their practice as well as to their assessments to make sure that we're filling gaps for students when needed and foundational skills and as well as comprehension. And Course Mojo is the same. It's also adaptive and it's looking at our curriculum. So it uses the teacher has to teach the lesson as a tier 1 tool, whereas Amira is more of an intervention tool. But going into next school year, Amira will actually also include Bluebonnet instruction, materials, and curriculum in it so that we can do tier 1 instruction as well as tier 2 in that one platform. And then Course Mojo is for our secondary campuses. It is for middle school 6th through 8th grade. And it includes Wit and Wisdom, which is our curriculum for literacy, in the system. So the teacher teaches a lesson in tier 1, and as part of that tier 1 support, the students respond to questions or complete writing assignments based on what they just learned in class. So it doesn't pull you have to have the teacher in order to deliver tier 1 instruction, and then provides scaffolded support to the students. The students type in their answer and the AI tool will tell them whether or not they got that correct. And if they didn't get the answer correct, it will instruct them back to the text to identify or to look for additional details that would help them to answer that question. In addition to all of that, on the student-facing side, both platforms have very detailed data tools for teachers so that they can respond in the moment to the students, so they can see how students are answering questions. They can pull kids based on those answers. The system will actually, for Course Mojo, tell the teacher, hey, most of the kids are getting stuck here. You might want to do a lesson or stop instruction and address this concern, this misconception. So there's a lot of support for the student as well as for the teacher in their instruction. Those are just some of the tools that we're using right now.
So the next slide is just kind of gives you an outline of showing where we have our admin team using the Gemini workspace. That's where we've deployed licenses. We use the streamline across other departments. We made sure we use our digital learning team to go and talk to the departments, communicate anything that they had going with workflows or anything that they can help and support. And then for the teacher, we're using the Magic School AI. It comes with already equipped with 80 tools, so it allows teachers to be using tools that are created from educators that are for educators. And so from besides that, they're able to differentiate between the work and reduce their administrative workload. Student side, there's an opportunity for us to look at is going to be Magic Student, which is part of the Magic School. It also provides support and keeps everything that the students do in control base where it's only in magic school student, because the students can't go out and view anything else outside. We can monitor just like we look at everything else. We want to make sure students are on track. And everything that we do, if you read on the bottom, it also has support for student data to protect, for embedding FERPA and COPA to make sure that all the platforms that we use is protected for all our data and does not get sold online. It's not used for advertisement. So everything that we do stays in Aldine's domain. So just quickly, I want to talk about Gemini and Notebook. So Gemini, we are a Google district, and it connects to every application that we have. Google Docs, we have Google Calendar, we have Google Sheets, Google Drive. When you're in your email, you can already start asking your email right away. What's my top emails that came through? Who do I need to respond? It can automatically respond for you. You can also do a lot of scheduling into your calendar and get things managed so that it helps administrators be able to be more proactive and not have to be bogged down for looking at all the emails that we do receive weekly. As also an administrator, they can look at the district-wide assessment, they can feed into Google Sheets, and then ask it to create some automatic performance reports. And so we can know where we're at without having to do calculations and get things done. Something I would like to talk about Notebook LM is that it's something that all the data that lives in Notebook LM is what we upload. So if we want to upload the board book, that is something that nothing else is in there. We upload the document, and inside there, we can turn around and say, hey, can you create an audio podcast of the board book? Because that's the only way I learn. I don't learn by reading. I learn better if I can hear it when I'm driving or doing things. It'll quickly create that for you. It also create a video of two people talking about what's going on, but you can see a video of it.
Killer MOU. Any questions? I see none.
Okay. Ask about the resignations. There are a large number of course, the list is long, and you can understand at the end of the year, I think this is not unusual that we have a long list at the end of the year, but there is a very long list of, included in here, of associate teachers. And of course, it's always been, is the high cost of onboarding. So some of these stay a year, and we've gone through a whole lot of energy expense to try to keep them. But are most of these that are leaving, because in most cases, the description of their leaving is other, are most of them leaving because they did not fulfill the requirements for certification? Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am, they're leaving in lieu of termination.
Okay, all right. But so in other words, that just reemphasizes the effort that I think that the district should be making in retaining those excess teachers that we have.
Yes, ma'am.
That would probably, be retained.
Yes, ma'am.
And that we would feel would be retained. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? That concludes my portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Herrera. Finance, Mr. Momani.
Good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, and members of the board. My name is Timothy Momani, Chief Financial Officer, and my agenda begins on page 235. Our first item on the consent agenda is approval of single contracts and purchases of $100,000 and greater. Some context before I allow questions to be asked of the items there. Most of these items are items we typically bring at the beginning or at the close of the year in preparation for the beginning of the school year. Additionally, some of those items, for example, teaching and learning, which is the special ed department, as part of our budget discussions, we did go through the process of seeing how can we possibly decrease the spending that we have on the contracts. And we are being intentional. The challenge is that we do not have a lot of those diagnosticians willing to come and work for the districts. Some of the reasons that we evaluate just cut that contract, whether it's federally funded or locally funded, because we are required. We want to provide those services to our students in special ed. And so that's why you do see these large amounts. They are not to exceed. We are actually spending those amounts. So it's not like there's opportunity to reduce those amounts, but it's due to a staffing shortage in those skilled areas. A good example that I may call out to see how this is, how we have been intentional, is one of the items, and this is under Diaca Melendez. This is on page 241. So Emergis Educational Staffing, that's an agency that provides nurses to the district. And that is a shortage area that we have. So even though we are flexible in terms of LV, licensed vocational nurses, but through being intentional working with HR, that amount is much lower than we spent this school year. This school year we were about $760,000. So it is a slow but steady process. And so that's just an example where, yes, you do see this amount, but we go back and we intentionally try to see how we can recruit personnel in these areas. But this large item, this is customary for each year where we have a large amount of over 100,000. And it is just so that we are ready as we adopt the budget this month and start the new year, that we have the contracts in place. Secure the contracts so that when school starts, we can then proceed with this vendors are providing the services. So I'll welcome any questions that you may have that we may be able to address.
Mr. Moore?
So help me here. I think we've got many millions of dollars that we're going to spend. Is that correct? I don't know, over 10 million in this category?
That's correct.
Okay. And in general, is it, I think it's true that whenever you can get stuff done with staff, it's cheaper than hiring consultants if you can manage to do that. Is that a safe assumption? So then what I think I heard you say is that regardless of what we approve, your intention is to get some of this on staff whenever you can, do it as a cost saving. Is that what I heard you say? I'm trying to put words in your mouth here.
Well, to summarize, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Dr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Viola Garcia. So I'll begin on page 237, Mr. Bomani, and these are the items. These are not the items that you mentioned, but I do want to emphasize the point that was made a little bit earlier by our technology officer, and there are examples here that I would refer to regarding AI. My biggest concern regarding these items is always the local funds that are expended rather than the federal or other grant funds that we are able to get. And so when I look at the business solver as an example for human resources, benefits administration, and then I look at the next page on page 238, which is also a leave management program, leave administrator and accommodations. These are the kinds of things that I would suggest in the previous conversation that we as a school district have the expertise already in with staff members that can create such programs so that we are saving, in this case, $240,000, $340,000. I'm not suggesting, obviously, that this is something that we would do immediately, because I would imagine that we need this service and this program for this upcoming year in order to do the functions that are briefly described here. But it is the exact same thing that I am suggesting that we need to get on the ball about and create our own internal ability to do these management systems that simply are taking data we already have, that we are simply feeding into somebody else's system that they've created, that we can probably do ourselves. I'm not saying for sure that this can be done, but I believe it is important for at least us have a good look at this so that we have the capacity in the future to perhaps save, not only in the hundreds of thousands, but perhaps in the millions. So those two are an example there. And then I have a few others, Mr. Mamani, that I think that I would ask about. On page 239, there is a request for body cameras. And my question here is, does every single officer need a body camera? Or is there sharing that takes place? That's $500,000. This is local funding, and it is a renewal. So,
Chief Cordova, can I respond to that?
Sure. Sorry.
So
Dr. Teachy.
to answer your question, yes, we do all need body cameras because there's a lot of times that officers work simultaneously, and we never know which officer, could even be me, anybody could come up to a situation where it needs to be recorded for the protection of everybody, the district, the officer, the citizen. We need to know exactly what happened.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That answers that question. So then on the next page, 240, the risk management, again, this is local. A program breakdown, general liability, crime, storage, pollution liability, bonds. So this is an insurance about risk management for those property items.
Yes, this is a self-insured that is being transitioned.
Okay, that's what I thought, because the amount of money. Okay. Then on page 241, there are a good number here. Again, the major concern, of course, is that these are local. So on 241, this is where the suggestion about the potential for AI to do some of these things, electronic health records, school health cooperative, can we develop our own? I'm not suggesting that the health employees, but I believe that we have very, very talented
I don't know if AI is that sophisticated yet to replace all these systems. AI helps.
The systems are created. Yeah. The systems in other words, we're using somebody's system. Somebody created something. Now, whether we use AI or we use something else, there is a system that has been created by someone, and there have been school districts that have created systems that they are selling to other school districts. So, I'm just suggesting Aldine can be at the top of the list here in terms of creativity, innovation, and that sort of thing. So these are the ones that I would that I think that the kinds of things that we can look at. The next one for student services, Power School Group, software maintenance agreement for student information systems that we might be able to do.
I think we need to understand what each of these do. I think that's really important, Dr. Garcia, because I don't want to miss. I'm all about innovation. I'm all about being the first and the finest. And I know we presented this amazing report, but all schools are using this. We don't have an indication of any schools that have created their own. And so I just want to make sure that we balance the expectations, because some of this is about compliance. It's going to impact funding and impact scheduling and impacts the school experience for teachers and for students. And so I don't want to have unreasonable expectations that we can let AI do everything.
No. I'm not suggesting that AI would do everything, but it would be a tool. One of the other ones on this page, so there are 4 on this page, School Health Cooperation Agreement, Power School Group twice. Then the 4th one here, the data system to track student growth 3 times a year.
And that's required by TIA.
Yeah, but we know what
we cannot change that, because we have schools that aren't getting their TIA funds because their data is not correct. And so although it says local, the TIA funding pays for it, so the 10% discretionary. So I think it's so important. I know you're going down your concerns, but it's so important that we know what each one of these do, so that we're not oversimplifying the fact that we could just create something to do it for us. So while it says local, and we can, because when we talked and went over it with the president, she asked, okay, so TIA has a lot of requirements, yes. And there are examples throughout the state of districts who are not getting their TIA funding because they aren't using a system to make sure that the data is clean.
Yeah, and I think the difficult point for us and the piece for advocacy would be when the state requires us to use their selected data source or system.
Yeah.
Okay, so then on 243, I understand, Mr. Mumani, that's probably one of the ones that you were referring to, the Stromberg and Associates staffing, and all of the others on the next page all have to do speech therapy, recruiting consultants, same thing, all of those, right, are the ones that you were
Yes, I was,
referring to?
correct,
Okay, all right.
correct.
And then there's 247. Let me see what was on there. Support personnel of speech, that's something that we can't do. And 48 is subscription-based single sign platform for K-12. Simplifies secure access to digital learning tools by allowing students, teachers, administrators, and parents to log in once and access multiple educational programs. There was a suggestion that we have something, not that, but some related thing where we have secure spaces for students. So I'm just, those are the ones that kind of jumped out at me. The cost for some of these, and because they're local, would be something that I think that we need to look at, and not that they are all going to work out, but that when we have a discussion, when you and your administrators have a discussion about this, I think that there are possibilities that these very learned people on your staff would be able to say, absolutely, there are people in the arena, and perhaps some of the people that are the excess people that have skills in these areas would be able to support some of the work that we're already contracting out.
Dr. Booker, may I just chime in? So of course we want to look for every opportunity to use our staff efficiently. I can tell the board that we do not have any software engineers on the excess list, nor do we have any software engineers employed by the district that can build like an SIS system, a student information system. I don't know that we have any software engineers on staff that can build a platform such as one of the first items there, the business solver for $340,000. That's an entire platform that that was engineered by a company where all of our employees go in there and they sign up for their benefits. They list their beneficiaries. They tell us what deductions they want taken out of their checks. Then there is a file that is pulled out of that is uploaded into our frontline system. That information now also will go to TRS, and so there's a lot involved there. And so it would be beautiful if we had people on staff that could build those sort of systems. Of course, they might not be able to sell them for the billions of dollars that the developers of Business Solver did, but nevertheless, some of these items also are required by the state of Texas. For example, the first item there, executive information systems. That is, we used to refer to that as the SAS EVOS system, and what it is, that is the platform that TEA uses in order to determine student growth on assessments, STAR specifically. And so in order for us to have access to that data, we have to pay for that data. So this is actually us purchasing that data from the state. So if that helps a little bit as to some of the complexity of some of the things that we are using here. I also want to point out that anything here that has TIA in the description, we're able to use TIA funds that we receive from the state to pay for that. So even though it says local, which is correct technically, because those TIA funds go directly into our local budget, we are actually using TIA funds to purchase those items.
Thank you for sharing that. I do want to express that they do not need to be software engineers. I have a son-in-law with a simple business degree who has been chief technology officer for his 3 companies. I mean, they don't. So there are people who are talented in ways, and I'm not suggesting that those systems that are required are the ones that we need to begin to build, but we can build very simple things that can replace some of the things that we're contracting out. And that's my belief, and that's why I'm sharing that.
Dr.
Thank you.
Booker?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to let you know, I understand where you're coming from, Dr. Garcia, but there is items that are not on here that we are building internally, that we have FAST, we have risk management software, we use Laserfish Forms.
Great.
Those are items that we are not having to go and purchase, and we're creating them internally.
Great.
I would love to create some of the software, but then we need a data center, we need power, AC, water. There's things that we can't do, but we are doing things right now that is saving. And as we talk to other departments, as I mentioned before, we're trying to streamline the workflows, understand what they're doing, and then make things easier. But it's just unfortunately some of these things, student information system, we can't send that data and be responsible for us not getting correct funding and things like that. And it's also, we don't have the protection where we would end up spending more money to protect ourselves even more, or we would have to pay someone outside in the cloud.
Right.
So there is things that we are doing that don't show up here, but that is getting done.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm not asking, I want to be clear, I'm not asking for the moon. I'm just asking for, let's include all aspects of our school district in this work so that we are creating shortcuts wherever we can, and appreciate the response and that we are doing some things. Thank you.
Mr. Mamani, this is Dr. Booker. I just have a simple, quick question about, on page 238, the item with the mariachi uniforms. I talked to the superintendent for about 2.5 hours about this, about the 100K list. I had a bunch of questions as well, but I did not get the answer to. I understand that this is a part of Title IV and Part A, Title IV Part A, about the uniforms, but I was curious to know, I know it covers 9 campuses, this amount, but how many students or how many uniforms is this?
I can take that question. Adrian Bustillos, the Chief Transformation Officer. So each one of these mariachi groups, we're looking to outfit them for 20 to 30 students at each one of those locations. So on the high end, about 270 students, on the low end, 180. One of the things we saw this year is that you're all familiar with Mariachi Acero at Carver High School. They had a very unique opportunity to perform at the Houston Rodeo prior to the Noche Latino, and it was a big facility. It's one of the staples. When we looked at the uniforms that our students were wearing compared to the other uniforms of the other high schools in the setting, it just was not equitable. So as we start to plan and roll out these new mariachi programs at all of our high schools, and then we have the feeder pattern that goes from Anderson, Drew, Carter, and then Harris Elementary now has their own mariachi out there as well. So we want to ensure everyone has the right tools and access so they could perform at these events. So working with Mr. Momani and his team, we were able to identify these additional dollars for this current school year, for the 25-26 years that we have to expend so many dollars. So this is what the dollars we're using to cover the program. So it's about 270 students on the high end.
All right, thank you. Thank you. 270. Thank you for that answer.
So,
Any more questions from the board? Yes.
May I?
Mr. Moore? Yes.
Thank you. So that's a lot per uniform. Are you sure you need to spend that much?
So it's the entire outfit, and it can be more than one outfit, which you can do mix and match, top, bottom, top, and then it comes with the all accessories. So as we go out to the community, it's also a great way to recruit families into the district. And one thing we hope to do is that next spring in May is to have our own district Aldine Mariachi Festival, where we can kick it off and then we can launch it in the fall under the Hispanic Heritage Month at all our facilities. And when we do the alignment and we build our new EdPAC Center, we hope to build a coalition of a mariachi competition for the Region 4 Houston area. So to your point, Mr. Barr, these are the tools that help us. It's expensive because we don't have any, but once we have them, we're able to build upon it. So we look at it as a one-time investment temporarily so we can get it up off the ground and then we maintain thereafter.
Well, a couple other short questions, please.
Yes.
About the body cams, you rent them instead of buy them. You sure you can't do a better price overall by buying them?
So, we use GoPros for our Office of Emergency Management people because it's just short term. It's not required. It doesn't hold up to the. It's not needed for evidence. It's just for documentation purposes, but not evidentiary. But it has to be at. There's really three. I don't want to name the companies, but there's really about 3 or 4 companies total that will stand up to evidentiary standards in court. And it has to be tamper-proof, that once it's recorded, no one can tamper with it, and it goes into a cloud where, again, that it can't be tampered, and it can be easily shared with prosecutors, easily shared with our legal department, open records requests.
That I'm satisfied. You don't have to go any further. Thank you.
Okay.
Just had to ask, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, one more sort of just have to ask question on page 247, that last item there, I know of a company that it vastly increased their productivity of their maintenance staff with a program like ClockShark, which is probably a competitor to that. If I could just offer a couple other companies you might want to investigate before you buy that particular one.
I think that would be, it may not be
Just because I know a company that might
item
want
is
to
it
bid.
referring to? If they're on the vendor approved list or they responded to,
Yeah, they have to respond to the RFP.
they can't, yeah.
We have procurement laws that we have.
Okay, so the deadline for bidding for that is somehow passed, even though we haven't approved it. There's a deadline for we haven't approved it yet, so there can't be a deadline yet.
The companies have to have responded to our RFP, and the process has already been, they've already gone through the process, and these are the companies.
Okay, well, that kind of sets me back as a board member, because I didn't think we could get that far along without the board already approving it, and here you've already closed off the bidding, and we don't get a chance to even approve it until the bidding is finished and you pick the vendor. That's the way it works?
Yes, sir.
I don't feel comfortable with that.
The board has to approve the contracts that end over 100K, and those are the ones we bring forward.
It's 155,000.
Right.
Which item?
All right, but my question is, do we go, does your staff get bids and complete the process and say, here it is, here's who we want?
Throughout the year, and you'll see that this is a renewal. All these are renewals. And so with Incident IQ, our staff and our information is already uploaded input, and we've gone through a year with it. And so looking at the impact of how we've been able to respond to our workflow and move forward, unless there was a significant issue or significant savings, which we observe and people are able to respond to, we bring the renewals.
All right, so if we didn't approve it as a board, then what happens? Then the process to start all over, right?
It could, but it stops our function as a district being productive and moving forward.
All right.
May I add, Dr. Booker Viola?
Dr. Garcia?
I think I understand conceptually the idea of a need. The district has a need. And so there is, before this, I understand what you're saying here, Kay, but what I believe you're suggesting is part of what I was asking months ago, to better understand the process.
If we
is
get-
that there is board inclusion is that there be board inclusion before we get to, let me just give you the name of an organization with a cost, and then you approve it or not approve it with very little or limited information about what that is. So I absolutely agree that it is not a comfortable setting for a board member to be asked to bid on a name and an amount with no detailed information. So I think it would be important for us to include, this is coming up next month. These are the items that have been put up for bid for the various things that the district needs.
It's a slippery slope, but I just want to caution the board in getting involved with vendors and.
That's not the suggestion that I'm making.
That's what he was saying.
Well, I'm not making that suggestion. I'm suggesting that we just get more information than we get.
This one is a little different. I understand your explanation. This one is a little different because it is a renewal.
Well, but one of the other concerns that I have about renewals is that sometimes it would appear without data, without information, without a cause and effect. How do I know that this renewal is a good thing to do? What data do I have to support the fact that the outcome from having had that particular contract really did support and help the district? I have no data about that. So even though it says renewal, it doesn't give me, as a board member, making a decision about an amount of money that's a good thing.
So it's two different pieces.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, if the purpose is so that others can have opportunity to become a vendor, then there's a process for an RFP. If there's a question around the amount of information that's needed in order to make a decision about a recommendation from administration, then that's another conversation.
So, separately, whether I can recommend a vendor, maybe that's not allowed. I don't know. Okay, but Viola and I are the question I think we're raising is, if the board gets an agenda item and says approve it or not, and it's brought to us at the point where we kind of have no choice, then we're just rubber stamping, and sometimes that's appropriate. Sometimes it isn't, and that's the difficulty is to decide when it's appropriate and when it isn't.
There's an opportunity to ask questions about the performance of the vendor, and we can answer those questions to the department that utilizes that vendor. That's the opportunity that you have at this time of study session.
Dr. Booker, is it okay? Viola Garcia, I would just also suggest that it is also an option for us to pull an agenda item to say, I want more information about this. I don't know, Dr. Goffney, about this particular one and whether delaying the decision on this one a month is going to make an impactful difference. This is about ticketing software to efficiently manage school resources and support requests. I don't know what that means.
But
Incident IQ, is that the one you're referring to? I mean, I don't know if you want to.
I'm willing to skip this. I'm just raising a general question as a board, which is, where do we draw the line when we approve something? And obviously, we can't micromanage.
We're doing it.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'll drop any comment on this. Okay, ignore this one completely. But the question still is one we should think about as a board, is how we keep from micromanaging when we shouldn't, and when we should get into a deeper level. And we're not going to solve that tonight. We'll never solve it. I guess all I'm doing is pointing out that it's an ongoing part of the process.
and you see the number of recommendations. We took those one by one and went over the impact report and went over all of those different things, how time-consuming it is, and how we would be able to move forward as a district with huge challenges, including a deficit budget, academic challenges that we're trying to make sure that we continue to move forward. And so I serve at the pleasure of the board. And if this is the kind of conversations we want to have about someone that you know having access to this, that's
It wasn't this one in particular anymore. It was just the concept, and we can't solve it. I just wanted to bring up an awareness that it's an issue that's going to come up at times, and we probably need to intelligently try to stay out of trouble by knowing where we stand on this stuff, how the best way to avoid the conflict in the best way. And I guess the best way is to skillfully anticipate which ones things board members are going to feel that they want to have more say on.
Dr. Booker, may I suggest that when you have the board retreat, that this might be a topic that you address what information that the administration might present when you have the over 100K, and what information that board members might, that the administration might present for board members to feel confident in the recommendation by the administration.
I know we keep saying retreat. My recommendation is for us to have, and I spoke to Dr. Goffney with this, that we have workshops before our meetings. And I am going to reiterate, I know we have questions on study session, which is great, but we also can ask questions before tonight. And you can schedule a meeting, and the staff is very accommodating. They will meet with you. Any question that we have before tonight, so it won't get to the point where you feel like, I got to do this now or never. You can call them. They will meet. I have not once had a question and it was unanswered. The staff always, somebody will get back to me.
Well,
so if you, let me finish. So if you have a question, and I know you can't get them answered all the time. Sometimes you have questions right now, but the list was provided to us before tonight. And we're gonna have workshops. I already recommended that to our superintendent so we can be ready for any situation. Yes, Mr. Moore?
I agree with your comment. I think you adequately answered my concern, and I want to thank you for stating it and reminding us, and I agree with you, okay? So completely back off from the problem, because I think you gave the answer that I agree with.
I appreciate it. And we're going to work together. I know this is just the beginning. We have some tough decisions to make. We have things, but we have to keep in mind as board members. And I don't know if we're supposed to be recording this. Most of these recordings for the board, we need to focus on academic excellence and academic success. That is, the budget is one, but our overall goal for the board is academic success. And so we just have to be mindful of our questions and how much time we spend on it. And that's the only reason why I keep us moving, because if it's going over the time frame and it's not, we get dinged on that when we do our work for the board. Any more questions from the board before we move on? Okay. Who was talking?
Thank you. My next item is approval of the board resolution of the release of fund balance for the property self-insurance program. So on the over 100,000, we do have the item for purchasing property insurance at 2.9 million. As you may recall, we have mentioned during the budget workshop, we set aside 20 million. Governmental accounting standards board rules require us to commit, and we did commit $20 million. In the event we had to draw it for the self-insurance. And so based upon if the item were to be approved, the over 100,000, our recommendation would be then that there is a resolution which is required to release the 20 million that we had set aside for property insurance. And so that's the item, or that's the explanation of the resolution. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? I see none.
Okay. The next item is the approval of the General Fund Debt Service Fund, Child Nutrition Fund Final Budget Amendment. Ms. Yolanda did share a printout of the items that weren't on the board book. It is noted, but when she did send out the actual PDF, it was not included there. So I'll give you a moment just to pull up the pages. This is a page that says approval of general fund, debt service. It's in a yellow folder. And as you pull it up, I'll just walk you through just a general explanation of what you see. We adopted a budget of 662 million, and we came back and we amended it. So we amended it once we gave the raises. And then when we get to this point of the year, we come back and we make adjustments based on revenue projections, based on what we have seen and collected to date. And also then based on the student number of students enrollments that we had and changes we made in different areas. So I'll point out the key highlights. The key highlight here on the 5,800, that's state aid. The state is giving us additional state aid for the homeless exemption, which was not built into the adopted budget. So that's an increase of 18.7 million. Also, we do have other sources, that is land sales. So we sold, once the board approved the sale of property, we were able to close. And so we are increasing that or amending the budget because we have received those funds in the bank. The local revenue that you see there being reduced is a function of several things. One is interest earnings are much lower. And then secondly, we also have property taxes lower based upon the approved constitutional amendment that increased the homestead exemption. So once we received the final values that incorporated that increased exemption, we did adjust the local revenue. And then just looking at the big changes, I'll only look at on the expenditure side, I'll only explain the big ones. The instructional resources, that's the one I mentioned where the information literacy specialists based on coding, we had them as instruction. So they're not teachers, FASRAG or the TA coding requirements. So we're putting it correctly where it needs to be in function 12. And then under 13, curriculum and instructional staff development, as we went through the year, we had budgeted for some instructional specialists out of local funds. We were able to pay for some of those positions out of Title I. So that's why you see a reduction there. And then I'll go down to the other big changes that you see. Student extracurricular activities, the 1.4 increase, this is making sure that all the stipends that we have paid to for athletics are reflected, and that's why there's an increase of 1.4 million there. And then general administration, about 5.7 million reduction. That is incorporated with that was changes that we made, such as moving Elevate K-12. It was previously budgeted in Chief Herrera's budget, but it's directly related to teachers. And this is a contract that where teachers for this year, when we had a shortage of teachers, we were able to contract with this company. And so that's a function 11. And so we moved it to function 11. And then there was also a reduction due to our matching program. It was budgeted in 2 budget areas, so we reduced that as well. And then finally, if I can talk about security and monitoring services, we had plans to purchase reunification software. This is parent student reunification software. It would have required downloads in reviewing the software that is available. It would have required downloads on everybody's device, parents and teachers. And so as we reviewed that option, we saw that there are other options we would like to consider and see what other opportunities are there. Possibly, where possible, we'll see whether AI might be a solution to this. But this is an area where we're reducing the budget. We did not purchase the software, and therefore we reduced the budget. Overall, the budget is from an expenditures perspective, is going to be the same ending point, because as you increase revenues, we've reduced expenditures slightly. And then finally, there is a transfer out of 23.5 million. If you look there at the bottom, that's a transfer to the Bond Capital Projects Fund. And that's the item where in prior years we had sold land as we went through the process of bond of our recent bond sale. The bond council advised that because you had purchased that land using recent bond funds and had not paid off those bonds, we could not keep those funds in the general fund. So we are moving it to the Capital Projects Fund, whereby we will spend those funds on, or those monies in allowable bond projects, which will then reduce how much we had set aside. Of the 1.8, we would have to spend this amount first before we go ahead and spend the funds that we have sold, the bonds that we have sold. So absent this 23.5 million, which we had received in prior years, we actually did have a significant reduction in the budget from an expenditure perspective. Because you do see the revenue going up about 20.9 million, and true expenditures was only 3.5 million. So we would have been net positive from a revenue perspective. So that's the general fund. The next page is the debt service and child nutrition. On the child nutrition amendment, we had less kids to feed. So our reimbursements are less, and we spent less on child nutrition expenses. And then on the debt service fund, which is the third page, this is just an adjustment related to the refunding that we did of our bonds, the refinancing. So we have to book the revenue, and we also then have to book the expenditure there. And then we didn't have to, as part of that refunding, we were not allowed to, the state doesn't allow you to have early payoffs on your debt because of legislation. So the funding, the revenue will be coming in August. And that's why when you look at the proposed debt service budget, we will be having more expenditures than revenues, and that's next year's budget, because we did receive the revenue this year. Any questions that you may have on the budget amendment?
I see none.
Okay. My next item is the approval of the 2026-2027 budget and proposed tax rate hearing. So this is just as an informational purpose. The law requires us to have a separate meeting, which we will have tomorrow before our regular called meeting, where we will present information on the notice of the public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate. We will note the tax rate will be the same. We're adopting or proposing the same tax rate for 2026. The taxes, therefore, we will be proposing maintenance and tax rate of 0.7315 per 100. And on the debt service, we'll be proposing 0.3025 on the debt service. You also do have the budget book that lists how we compare to adopted. And that's how we have to present it. You always have to present it from adopted. We adopted the budget back in June. Then we came back and amended it due to the raises. So that's why you do see raises or increase in payroll costs from the adopted 25-26 to the 26-27 budget. So that's why most payroll costs are going up. That was the raise that was approved, but it was approved after we had originally adopted the budget. So we do not compare amended to adopted. And that's why in some of the functions, absent reductions in staffing, that's why you're seeing increase in the payroll costs. Any questions on the approval of the 2026-2027 budget and proposed tax rate hearing item?
Any questions from the board? I see none.
Okay. The other items is informational items. This is the taxpayer impact statement for 2026. This is a new item, and the board has never seen this item in the past, but this is something that the legislature introduced. Page 271 gives you the description or information about the item itself. And anytime we talk about the budget, for transparency's sake, and we want to do it, the state wants us to show the impact of any tax rates that we will be proposing and possibly adopting. Remember, tomorrow we will just be proposing. Once we receive our final values in the fall, we will then come back to you and have a hearing as well. What I would like to call out to you on page 272 is the median value homestead. This has incorporated the increased homestead exemption. So there's a homestead exemption of $140,000. So the home value homestead on this page is less all exemptions that we grant homeowners who reside in the district. We have this over 65. We also have the disabled. But just as a median, this is the value of the homesteads in the district. And so we're just trying to show the comparison. You can see third column, the tax rate is remaining the same, but you can see the estimated property tax bill is increasing, and that's because the value is increasing, not because we are proposing a higher rate. It's just a function of the value increasing from one year to another. Any questions on that item?
Any questions from the board?
Okay. Okay, but my other two items are the regular monthly information items that we provide. That's a monthly report of financial activity. We are trending as expected through May. So I'm comfortable that we will hit the numbers that we have shown on the amended budget. And then on the tax office report, comparing one period this year to the last year, collections are slightly higher. And you can see that on page 279 on items that we typically absent collections. If you look at all the other large items, we are trending higher compared to last year. As an overall, it's collections on current year levy is slightly lower. But if you look on collections on prior years delinquent accounts, we are much higher, which offsets that slight decrease in collections on current year levy. Overall, as a CFO, I'm pleased that we are hitting those numbers in terms of collections, and our monthly expenses are trending as expected. Thank you for the opportunity to review my items.
Thank you, Mr. Mamani. Question? Mr. Moore. Thank you.
So I don't understand the tax rate is 32 cents per 100 for debt service. Now, if that is assessed, but the debt is going up as we spend the money and build the schools, so how does that work? We just collect the money and not spend it? Is that how it works?
So how it works is, in the same breath, we are also paying down previously issued debt, principal. And so as we are having to issue new bonds, we're able to maintain our debt ratios so that we are not increasing our expenditures or having to increase our debt service rate. So that's how you manage it, so that we never want to come to you. In some cases, it would be necessary, but if we do what we are supposed to do in managing the debt, then our revenues should be sufficient to maintain the same tax rate as we look at how we are paying down. Every year, we pay down debt. So it's a balancing act that we look at when we work with our financial advisor.
Well, but I don't quite understand. as we build more schools, our debt has to go up. So is our net amount of debt going up as we build one? We got a bond for $1 million, over $1 billion total.
So as an example, to answer your question, we had issued $400 million, okay, for our principal and interest on that debt. I'll give you a number just for purposes of discussion. Let's say the purpose of, as we issue that debt, our payment is going to be $20 million, as an example. On previously issued debt that the district has, we have paid down yearly, we will be paying out $20 million on the different series. So it balances itself out, as an example. So therefore, yes, we have issued $400 million, but recall, with any debt, principal and interest is amortized under different schedules. So the net effect is we always want to make sure that we have enough revenue to pay the debt. And also remember, if your values are increasing by 1%, the debt service also benefits from the increase of property values in the district, because we are able to collect more taxes on the increased values. So yes, we increase more debt, but we're also paying more debt. So it balances itself out.
But when you say balance, you mean the net amount of debt stays the same?
The net amount of the payments remains the same.
How do you keep the payments the same if the debt's going way up?
Function of interest. The function of interest. As you issue longer debt, it's cheaper to issue it out. So we manage that. And I can spend more time, and we can do that, just so that you see how our financial advisor helps us make sure that we maintain, and we never want to come back to the board and request an increase in the tax rate. It's being strategic in managing that component.
Okay, so when the voters approved the bond, did they approve, how does approving the bond link with the 0.3 cents?
So
$0.3.
When our voters approved the bond, we had given them information that over the term of the bond, $1.8 billion, our commitment was that the tax rate will not increase by more than 10 pennies. And so we've been fortunate. We actually had, when we modeled it out for the public, we had actually said that we were supposed to come back last year and increase it by 0.02 pennies. We haven't had to do that, just by managing the interest payments that we have. Fortunately also, the borrowing rates have gone down in the market, so we haven't had a need to come back to you. So we promised it could go up to 10 cents increase. We have not had to do that.
Got it.
That's good.
That concludes my items. Thank you.
Dr. Garcia?
Yes, Mr. Momani, I did have questions about the bond funds. I'm going to refer to page 252 and 253, the explanations given. Primarily, I am interested to know, I know that the first one, the campus engineering, I think I read, primarily, I don't see it here, but I want to know for number 1, campus engineering, and for numbers 3 and 4, floors to a door, and for Lindsay Electric, because they each have 2. There wasn't a reference to the other. I just want to see if there were other bids other than just those, because it's not indicated on here that it just says that they were they demonstrated experience and qualifications, but it doesn't tell me if there were other bids. I hope there were.
I didn't see Perla, but Dr. Booker, Fred Washington, Chief Operating Officer. Perla's been here so long, so I'm going to let her speak a little bit. But just to respond, the first one, Campus Engineers, was from a RFQ, And this is the group that, from that list of people who responded to the RFQ, that was selected as best qualified to support us in that regard. I'm going to drop down before Perla has a chance to speak. On the other ones is a maintenance RFQ. When you talk about Lindsay Electric, Lindsay Electric is a district bidder for maintenance projects in that specific skill craft. So we have several. If you note, for the LED lighting RFQ, it's split between two vendors, Lindsay Electric and Texas Air. They are both qualified to do it, but their capacity to do all of the work is such that we had to divide the work between multiple vendors in order to do what we're requesting from them at this time. So Perla, you want to speak to the first one, Compass?
Yes. Good evening, Madam President Booker, Superintendent Dr. Goffney, members of the board. My name is Perla Lane. I'm the Executive Director of Facilities Planning and Construction. And to answer your question, Dr. Garcia, I apologize. Campus Engineering is one of those commissioning agents, the same commissioning agent we spoke about last month. They are doing the Carver High School project for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and life safety of commissioning of all of the mechanical systems. Dr. Washington answered your other questions. Are there any other questions?
But the question was, were there other bids for number one for Compass? Were they the only bidder?
No, they were not. We went through an RFQ process, and in the executive summary that's attached, I apologize, I do not have the page number. Someone can help me.
252.
252 and 253.
It's not in front of me, but I am reading the document for you. We can update that with it. We had it last month. We'll make sure that it gets updated for you this month.
And so was that also true for Floors to a Door? There were other bids?
Floors to a Door went through the same RFQ process. They are a district bidder for the district, and there are three. Okay. There's a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary.
And the same for Lindsay?
Lindsay Electric, yes. They also went through the same RFQ process. I can speak for my colleague. He's not here right now, but I do know we share that same bid. And they went through the same bidding process as well.
And then the last one was Texas Air.
Texas Air,
Texas Air Systems
would you like for me to answer?
Another district bid, respondent 2223-33. So that is a district bid, a RFQ process, and they were selected as a part of a group of companies that are qualified to do the work.
Okay, so just for clarification, so there were others that we selected these particular ones from a group, from various others.
From the bidding process.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Is it? Okay. Thank you. Chief Information Officer, Mr. Gavon.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, members of the board. My agenda item starts on page 280. This is an interlocal agreement between Aldine ISD and the University of Texas at Austin. Covers the agreement and relationship governing email security services for Aldine ISD. This email security services being offered is the first time for all school districts. This allows us not to have to make that purchase, and we get it with University of Texas at Austin.
You have a question?
Yes, thank you, Viola Garcia. So one doesn't normally think of the University of Texas as being in this kind of business. So what were the references, or what is the background, or what was the justification, or the...
Yes.
They're just offering a service free, or what are they?
So they are a part of the University of Texas, the Regional Security Operations Center. So they provide security services all of Texas, And so they were practicing and trying out abnormal email security services. And so they did it slowly with a couple of small districts to test it out. And they're trying to get behind to make sure that our districts are protected, and also knowing that there's a cost. So to help save money, they're making a huge purchase and then they're providing it free to all districts that apply. And this is a service that we protect our email, so from any phishing attacks or anything that's coming through, and also for our students. So we're going to get provided the same service.
Okay, so are we protected in any way? Should their system fail?
There is backups that they have with the system. It's the same that we have currently today with the same company.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's no any questions, that ends my agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Govan. Okay, moving on to the Police Department, Chief Paul Cordova.
Good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, and members of the Board of Trustees. My agenda begins on page 290, and it includes the district police activity report, and also the intruder detection audit, and also a third item, but I wanted to pause for a moment to see if there's any questions on those two items.
I see none.
So next, I'd like to transition to the podium to discuss the cycle 2023 through 2026 safety and security audit summary. So I have Office of Emergency Management Director, Mr. Michael Williams with me. So first thing I'm going to turn it over to him just as soon as I explain a couple of things. So there's 3 different types of audits that school districts are currently faced with, and I want to make sure that kind of deconflict what they are. So the one that is the oldest is the 3-year safety and security audit. It's probably about 10 years old. It requires each campus to go through a security audit once every 3 years. And so the way that works is every year they do approximately one third of the district. So that by the end of the 3rd year, you have 100%. And so that, like I said, that is pre-Uvalde. This has been in place for at least 10 years. The second type is the district vulnerability assessment. Is very comprehensive, as we just went through not too long ago. And that is a very comprehensive operational readiness assessment, A to Z. I mean, it really checks everything from cameras to see if your roof is secure, film on the windows. I mean, everything that you can imagine that TEA requires, that is audited once every 4 years, unless there's a reason for them to come back. And then the other one is the one that I submit to you every month, the intruder detection audit. That is basically a door check. And so it's checking doors, the functionality, make sure that they're closed, make sure you're doing your door logs. So those are the 3 types. And then understanding that all 3 audits together, there's a lot of overlap. But the 3-year audit is more planning and compliance. And the overall question would be, do we have the right systems in place, plans and infrastructure? The DVA is, like I said, very accountable, very comprehensive, and the question asked is, are campuses consistently implementing these systems? And then the IDA, the door check is going to be immediate real-world security testing, and the question that would be asked would be, can someone physically get into our buildings? So the 3 audits, takeaways are they're designed collectively to improve campus safety, strengthen emergency preparedness, maintain compliance with Texas law, reduce vulnerabilities and operational risk, and support a safe learning environment for students and staff. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Williams to give you a high-level summary of the 3-year cycle from 2023 to 2026. Go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Booker, Dr. Goffney, members of the board. My name is Michael Williams. As Chief stated, I'm the emergency manager of the district. I'm just going to share with you the results of the 3-cycle audit. This audit is comprehensive, similar to the DVA. It takes a look at all aspects of our campuses, as well as try to intrude the campus as well, preparing us for the DVA. As you look here, that there are 3 phases, as Chief mentioned. They tried to do a third of the schools each year, and we did 76 campuses over the last 3 years. Over the audit cycle, there's something they determine as a breach rate. This shows the number of campuses that were breached each year. You see in phase 1, we had 3 campuses out of the 28 that were breached. Phase 2, it spiked up for some reason and were 7. In phase 3, it trended back down with just 1. Each time that happens, I'm always contacted by the auditors immediately when they breach the campus, so I can immediately contact the campus to determine what occurred. And a lot of the times you find out it was either prop doors, which is something we don't like, and every now and then they manage to get in by going through the cafeteria, and a custodian may be bypassed and then immediately challenged. That's the secondary part, is that the campuses train their staff that if there's an unauthorized visitor, they're challenged by a staff member and then escorted to the front of the school to be checked in properly through the visitor management process. With this first time in phase 1, the 3 campuses that were breached, all 3 had the secondary process in place where they challenged the visitor and escorted to the front of the school. In phase 2, 5 of the 7 challenged the auditor and escorted him to the front. And in phase 3, the auditor was not challenged by that one school. So they had a full breach. The breaches occurred, as I mentioned, primarily because of unlocked or propped open exterior doors, unsecured gates or perimeter area where they managed to get into the TV areas. They may have found a TV door unlocked at that time. And inconsistent enforcement of visitor protocols. That's where they talk about the secondary level of challenging the auditor when they walked in. That may not have occurred at all at the campuses that I mentioned earlier. Some of the strengths that they discussed were strong visitor management systems. That's in our front vestibule, where we have a campus monitor that takes the visitor through the visitor management process by taking them through a metal detector, Raptor system that checks to see if they're sex offenders, give them visitor ID badges so that they can peruse through the school. Positive safety culture. This is where the staff is noticed encouraging safety during the intruder detection audit, addressing the unauthorized visitor. Emergency preparedness is where they talk about the MEOP that each campus has that's aligned with the NIMS and ICS frameworks, and as well as show proof of the standard response protocol drills that they perform for emergencies. They stated that our facilities have been maintained well. They're clean and organized. Their leadership and staff engagement, they say during dismissal and arrival, they always see the leadership and teachers present to make sure students arrive and leave safely from our schools. Some of the challenges that they noticed are perimeter security weaknesses. That's referring to the gaps in the gates or broken gates, but they're now fixed. Exterior door and access control gaps, they're referring to when the auditor walks up to the campus and able to breach the campus by being let in by someone and not taken to the front. So we talked about how many times that occurred. Portable and auxiliary facility risks. This is where they look at the TV buildings. They notice some floors inside the buildings may not have had tiles. The skirting around the bottom of the TV buildings to keep any animals or anybody hiding underneath may have been broken. So those are the things that they noted. Emergency mapping and documentations. They found some maps that were outdated, they described. Since then, we've got maps from crisis response groups that gave us better maps that notated some of the things, emergency exits, the utility spots, and AEDs and all of those things on the map. So we updated those maps that face true north. Inconsistent visitor signage and wayfinding. They talked about the signs on the secondary doors of the campuses that may not have signs pointing everyone to the front of the school. Well, they happened to come around checking when we were having resistant film put on the windows. So all of the signage was pulled off during the time of the audit. That happened at a lot of campuses. And with the resistant film, they didn't want anything put back on the windows. So they were in conflict on where to put their signage. So we corrected that problem as well. Behavior and mental health support needs. When they talked to some of the staff members in the school, they found out that some people were having trouble with students with behaviors a little bit at the elementary level. But since then, we have our MHSS department that has set up training. We have classroom management training to help them deviate and deter that type of behavior in the schools. Life safety compliance gaps. That's referring to that gaps in the gates that they say people breached to get into our areas. Key improvements over time, reduced breach rates. As you saw, it went from 11% down to 1%. And that also prepared us for the intruder detection audit that we share with you all every month. We've had no breaches this year reported to TA for the intruder detection audit, and that's because of the work that the auditors did with this 3-year cycle, because we were able to train and better prepare them to alleviate the breaches in their schools. Improve staff vigilance and intervention, more consistent emergency drill execution, better awareness of visitor management expectations, and strong alignment with TA safety standards. The overall conclusion is that we were effective front entry control. That's our campus monitor area. We engaged in safety conscious staff, our staff being present during arrival and dismissal, student intake at the secondary schools, consistent emergency preparedness practices. That's the drills that we conduct both semesters. Well-maintained learning environments. Again, they speak of the cleanliness and the maintenance of our schools. Top priorities moving forward to further strengthen district-wide safety focus should remain on securing perimeter fencing and gates, eliminating exterior door vulnerabilities, upgrading portable and auxiliary building security, completing detailed emergency mapping, standardizing visitor signage and protocols, and expanding behavior and de-escalation training. All of those things that we are addressing as we speak. Bottom line, Aldine is progressing in the right direction. They comment, the things that we have in place are strong, and it's a strong foundation that they've noticed. And they say that if we continue to attend to those infrastructures and consistency and procedure enforcement will be key to achieving full-wide system security alignment. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Make a quick comment. So thanks to the bond, we've been able to do a lot more fencing, and a lot more fencing is underway and will continue for quite some time. So that is going to plug up a lot of our gaps. So once we have the fencing, the door issues become less frequent.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Mr. Washington. All right. Legal, Ms. Kay DeWalt.
I'm Kay DeWalt, General Counsel, Legal Department. My items begin on page 314. I have the same 2 items. I'll answer any questions at this time.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Kay DeWalt? I see none.
Right, well, we have executive session, and after that, we can come back and adjourn.
Okay. We will adjourn into executive session under section 551.071, consultation with attorney, section 551.072, real estate, section 551.074, personnel matters, section 551.076, security personnel or devices, section 551.0761, cybersecurity measures, policies or contracts intended solely to protect critical infrastructure, facilities, and section 551.082, student disciplinary matter, if any, under the Open Meetings Act. It is now 10:08 p.m. right. We here? Where's Shanklin? We will reconvene into open session. The time is now 10:25 p.m. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Natalie Perez motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Perez. Tomorrow. I know it's late, Mr. Moore. Do I have a second?
Williams, second.
Williams. Okay, thank you, Ms. Perez and Ms. Williams. All in favor? All opposed? The time is now 10:25 p.m. Thank y'all so much.